Hello guys, welcome to Harry FLAX. So in this video, we will see what if Wonder Woman accidentally found Harry at age 5 and her lasso revealed Dumbledore's 44 dark spells. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Lasso's Revelation. Diana Prince stood on the rooftop of a nondescript office building in London, her eyes closed as she focused on the strange energy that had drawn her to England in the first place. 3 days ago, while at the Louvre examining ancient artifacts, she'd felt it, a sudden pulse of magic so powerful it made her Amazon senses tingle. Not the chaotic, wild magic of her gods, but something different. Structured. Human-made, yet ancient. "Where are you coming from?" she whispered to herself, opening her eyes to scan the horizon. The magical disturbance had grown stronger since yesterday, pulsing like a heartbeat. Whatever it was, it didn't feel malevolent exactly, but something about it troubled her. Years of experience had taught Diana to trust these instincts. She changed quickly, trading her formal museum attire for her armor, the weight of it comforting against her skin. The golden lasso of Hestia gleamed at her hip as she took a running leap from the building and soared through the evening air. The pole led her southwest of London, toward a place called Surrey. Diana followed the sensation like a bloodhound, eventually descending in a wooded area near a painfully ordinary suburban neighborhood. Privet Drive, according to the street sign. Row after row of identical houses stretched before her, each with the same manicured lawn and boxy design. "By Hera, what a strange place," Diana muttered, slipping her armor beneath an overcoat she'd brought along. The magical disturbance felt strongest around here, but it wasn't a single source anymore, it was a web, with multiple threads of power crisscrossing the area. The most powerful concentration came from number 4. Diana approached cautiously, noting the perfectly trimmed hedges and spotless windows. Nothing outwardly suggested this house contained magic powerful enough to draw her across the English Channel, yet the energy signatures were unmistakable. She'd intended to observe first, perhaps come back after nightfall, but a sudden crash from inside the house followed by a child's cry changed her plans instantly. She moved quickly to a side window, peering in just as a large, purple-faced man roared at something, or someone, she couldn't see. "That's the 3rd time this week. What did we tell you about your freakishness?" Diana's enhanced hearing picked up a small, terrified voice. "I'm sorry, Uncle Vernon. I didn't mean to. The plate was too heavy." "Sorry doesn't clean up the mess, does it, boy?" Diana's muscles tensed as she heard the distinctive sound of a belt being unbuckled. Without conscious thought, she moved to the front door and knocked firmly, 3 sharp raps that seemed to silence everything inside. After a moment, the door swung open to reveal a horse-faced woman with a permanently pinched expression. "Yes. Can I help you?" The woman's eyes darted nervously over Diana's striking appearance. Diana smiled pleasantly. "Hello. I'm Diana Prince, from the International Child Welfare Association. We've received some concerning reports about a young boy living at this address." The woman's face went white, then red. "There's been a mistake. My daughter's is perfectly well cared for, I'm referring to the other child. Harry Potter, I believe." Diana improvised, having heard the man call out, "boy," rather than a name. The reaction was immediate and telling. The woman's eyes widened with fear, and she tried to shut the door. "There's no Harry Potter here." Diana caught the door easily with one hand, her smile dropping. "I heard the child moments ago, Mrs. Dursley. Petunia Dursley." The woman's voice quavered. "Where is the boy, Mrs. Dursley?" Diana's voice hardened. Before Petunia could respond, a small form appeared in the hallway behind her. A boy, no older than 5, with unruly black hair and startlingly green eyes partially hidden behind broken glasses held together with tape. He was drowning in clothes several sizes too large, and Diana immediately noticed the bruise forming on his thin cheek. But what truly caught her attention was the magical energy emanating from him, particularly from a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. It pulsed with power, some of it bright and pure, but underneath lurked something dark and twisted. "Go to your cupboard. Now." Petunia hissed at the boy, who flinched and began to retreat. "Cupboard?" Diana stepped forward, gently but firmly moving Petunia aside. The magical aura around the child intensified as she approached him, and she could now see dozens, perhaps hundreds, of magical threads wrapped around him like a cocoon. Some glowed golden, others an ominous red, and still others pulsed with colors she had no names for. This child was absolutely saturated with spellwork. "Who are you?" the boy asked quietly, his eyes enormous behind his glasses. Diana knelt to his level. "My name is Diana. And you must be Harry." The boy nodded cautiously. "What's happening here?" Vernon Dursley appeared from what looked like the kitchen, his belt still in his hand. "Who the devil are you?" Diana rose to her full height, which nearly matched Vernon's, though her presence made her seem much larger. "I'm here about your treatment of this child." "Our treatment?" Vernon spluttered, his face turning purple again. "We took him in out of the goodness of our hearts after his deadbeat parents got themselves killed. And this is the thanks we get, government busybodies interfering. Where does he sleep?" Diana cut him off. Vernon fell silent, and Harry answered in a small voice, "In there." He pointed to a cupboard under the stairs, and Diana's heart constricted when she saw a small makeshift bed crammed into the space. "I see." She turned back to the Dursleys, who now stood together, Petunia clutching a grotesquely overweight boy of about Harry's age who had wandered in to investigate the commotion. "And your son? Where does he sleep?" "He has his own bedroom," Petunia said defensively. "And the spare bedroom for his toys." Diana's expression darkened. "Harry, would you like to come with me for a while? Just to talk?" Before either Dursley could object, Harry nodded eagerly. "Now see here," Vernon began, stepping forward aggressively. Diana moved with superhuman speed, her hand closing around his wrist before he could raise the belt. She squeezed just enough to make him gasp. "That would be unwise," she said quietly, then released him. She turned to Harry. "Do you have anything you want to bring with you?" Harry glanced at the cupboard. "Just my blanket." He darted inside and emerged with a tattered baby blanket, the only thing in the house that appeared to truly belong to him. "You can't just take him." Petunia protested, though she made no move to stop Diana. "I'm not taking him," Diana replied calmly. "We're going to the park I saw down the street to have a conversation. Harry and I will return shortly, and then we'll discuss his living situation further." She held out her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Harry took it. The moment their hands touched, Diana felt a jolt of the magic surrounding the boy. Something was very wrong here, beyond even the obvious abuse. The spellwork encasing this child was intricate, powerful, and in places, distinctly dark. "We'll be back soon," she assured the Dursleys, though she wasn't at all certain that was true. Harry remained silent as they walked toward the small neighborhood park, occasionally glancing up at Diana with a mixture of fear and hope. Once they were well away from Privet Drive, Diana found a secluded bench surrounded by trees and sat down, patting the space beside her. "Are you really from child welfare?" Harry asked suddenly, surprising her with his perceptiveness. Diana smiled. "No. I'm someone who sensed you needed help." "Like a superhero?" His eyes widened with interest. "Something like that," she answered, studying him carefully. "Harry, does strange stuff happen around you sometimes? Things you can't explain?" The boy's reaction was immediate. He paled and glanced around as if expecting his uncle to materialize. "I'm not supposed to talk about the freaky stuff." "It's not freaky, Harry. It's magic." The word hung in the air between them. Harry stared at her, then whispered, "Uncle Vernon says there's no such thing as magic." "Your Uncle Vernon is wrong about many things," Diana replied. "Including how children should be treated." Harry looked down at his two large shoes. They don't like me much. That has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them, Diana said firmly. Harry, I need to check something, if you'll let me. I want to use this. She touched the golden lasso at her hip. What is it? A magical rope that reveals truth. I want to understand what's happening to you, why I was drawn to find you. Diana unhooked the lasso, its golden light illuminating their faces in the dimming evening light. May I? Harry nodded cautiously, and Diana gently looped a single coil of the lasso around his small wrist. She had intended merely to ask about his living situation, perhaps learn more about his parents or how he came to bear such powerful magic. What happened instead nearly knocked her off the bench. The moment the lasso touched Harry's skin, it flared with a light so bright Diana had to shield her eyes. Harry gasped but didn't seem to be in pain, instead, his eyes glazed slightly, and his posture straightened. Most shocking of all, the magical threads Diana had sensed around him suddenly became visible to the naked eye, hundreds of spells, bindings, compulsions, and wards, all intricately woven together in a breathtaking display of magical craftsmanship. And at least 44 of them, Diana counted quickly, were dark. Unmistakably, unquestionably dark magic. Great Hera, Diana breathed. She hadn't asked a question yet, but the lasso was already working, pulling truth to the surface. Albus Dumbledore, Harry said in a voice oddly disconnected from his usual childish tone. Headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Supreme Mugwump of the International Confederation of Wizards. Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot. Who is Albus Dumbledore to you, Harry? Diana asked, following the lasso's lead. My magical guardian. The one who placed me with the Dursleys. The one who bound my magic. The one who left me on a doorstep with only a letter. Harry's voice remained flat, but tears began to slip down his cheeks. Diana's grip on the lasso tightened. What bindings did he place on you? The words poured out of Harry as if read from an invisible list: magical core binding, 75% restriction. Intelligence dampening spell. Memory blocks on all recollections of my parents. Emotion amplification charm keyed to trigger heightened fear responses. Anti-magic field centered on privet drive to prevent accidental magic. Blood wards using my mother's sacrifice, anchored to my aunt's blood unwillingly. Tracking charms on my person. Health suppression spells preventing proper growth and nutrition absorption. Loyalty compulsions keyed to Albus Dumbledore and House Gryffindor. Aversion compulsions toward academic achievement, self-preservation, and questioning authority. The list continued, growing darker with each revelation. Spells designed to make Harry seek out danger rather than avoid it. Compulsions that would activate at certain ages, pushing him toward specific people and away from others. Even a series of blocks on his natural magical affinities, restricting him to specific types of magic Dumbledore deemed appropriate. Most disturbing of all was what the lasso revealed about Harry's scar, a container for a soul fragment of someone called Voldemort, deliberately left intact by Dumbledore to serve as a connection between Harry and this dark wizard. As Harry spoke, Diana's rage built until her hands trembled. By the time he finished listing the 44th spell, a compulsion that would activate at age 17, driving Harry to willingly sacrifice himself to Voldemort, Diana had heard enough. She gently removed the lasso from Harry's wrist. The boy blinked several times, then looked up at her in confusion. What happened? Diana took a deep breath, trying to center herself before responding. This child needed calm strength, not vengeful fury, no matter how justified. The lasso showed me what's been done to you, Harry. You've been placed under many spells by someone who was supposed to protect you. Spells? Like magic? Harry's eyes widened. I really am a freak. No, Diana said firmly, placing her hands on his shoulders. You're a wizard, Harry. A very powerful one. But someone has been trying to control you, to make you less than you could be. Why would anyone do that? Diana chose her words carefully. Some people believe they know what's best for everyone. They make choices for others without asking, believing the end justifies the means. She touched his scar lightly. This man, Dumbledore, has a plan for you that isn't fair or right. He's using you as a tool rather than helping you grow as a person. Harry's brow furrowed. Is he a bad guy, then? The world isn't always divided into good people and bad people, Harry. Sometimes good people make terrible choices thinking they're doing the right thing. Diana squeezed his shoulder gently. But what he's done to you is wrong, and I'm going to help fix it. How? First, we need to get you somewhere safe, away from your relatives and away from Dumbledore's influence. Diana glanced back toward Privet Drive. I don't think we'll be returning to the Dursleys today after all. Harry's face lit up, but then doubt crept in. Won't you get in trouble for taking me? Possibly, Diana admitted. But I've faced worse than angry bureaucrats. As if summoned by her words, a sharp crack split the air, and a tall figure in flowing robes appeared beside their bench. Diana was on her feet in an instant, pushing Harry behind her protectively. The newcomer was an elderly woman with a severe bun of grey hair and square spectacles. She held a thin wooden stick, a wand, Diana presumed, pointed directly at Diana's chest. Step away from Mr. Potter immediately, the woman commanded, her Scottish accent clipped and precise. Diana didn't move. And you are? Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Our wards alerted us to unauthorized magical interaction with Harry Potter. Her eyes narrowed. You're interfering with matters beyond your understanding. Professor McGonagall, Diana said, recalling the name from Harry's Lasso-induced revelations, I understand more than you might think. For instance, I understand that this child has been subjected to 44 different binding and compulsion spells, many of them unethical at best and dark magic at worst. McGonagall's wand hand faltered slightly. That's preposterous. Is it? Diana reached for her lasso. This is the lasso of Hestia. It compels truth. It revealed everything that's been done to Harry, by Albus Dumbledore. The professor's face paled. Dumbledore would never, shall we find out? Diana extended the lasso toward McGonagall, who took an involuntary step back. That won't be necessary. McGonagall lowered her wand slightly, her expression troubled. What exactly are you alleging Albus has done? Core bindings. Memory blocks. Compulsions toward recklessness and away from self-preservation. Spells to keep him physically weak and magically stunted. Diana's voice hardened. And he's left a piece of this Voldemort soul in Harry's head, apparently as part of some grand plan. McGonagall gasped, her free hand flying to her mouth. A Horcrux? In a child? No, Albus wouldn't. But uncertainty flickered across her face. Harry tugged at Diana's coat. What's a Horcrux? Something that shouldn't be in you, Diana answered simply, keeping her eyes on McGonagall. Something we're going to remove. You can't possibly understand what's at stake, McGonagall insisted, though with less conviction. The wizarding world doesn't belong on the shoulders of a 5-year-old boy, Diana cut her off. I don't care what prophecy or plan Dumbledore is following. Harry deserves to grow up safe, loved, and free to make his own choices. Harry's hand slipped into Diana's, and she felt him press against her side. McGonagall's eyes dropped to their joined hands, then to Harry's bruised face and oversized clothes. Something in her expression shifted. The Dursleys, she muttered. I told Albus they were the worst sort of muggles. I watched them all day before he left Harry there. You knew. Diana's voice was dangerously quiet. You knew what kind of people they were, and you allowed a baby to be left with them anyway. I objected. McGonagall's voice rose defensively. Albus insisted the blood wards were essential for Harry's protection from remaining Death Eaters. He said sacrifices had to be made. Look at him, Diana said, gesturing to Harry. Look at what those sacrifices have cost. They keep him in a cupboard under the stairs. They call him Freak instead of his name. His cousin is given 2 bedrooms while he sleeps on a cot surrounded by spiders. McGonagall looked stricken, her gaze finally taking in Harry's full appearance. I didn't know it was this bad. She lowered her wand completely. But taking him without proper authority, his proper magical guardian has abused his position, Diana stated flatly. The authorities have failed this child. Where I come from, that means others must step in. And where exactly do you come from? McGonagall asked, studying Diana more carefully. You're not a witch, at least not like any I've encountered. I am Diana of Themyscira, daughter of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, Diana replied, seeing no reason to hide her identity from this woman who might become either ally or obstacle. In your world, I believe I would be considered a magical being rather than a witch. McGonagall blinked in genuine shock. An Amazon? But they're believed to be extinct, or mythical. We prefer privacy, Diana said with a slight smile, but we are quite real. An Amazon, Harry whispered, looking up at Diana with newfound awe. Like Wonder Woman? Diana squeezed his hand. Exactly like Wonder Woman. McGonagall lowered herself onto the bench, suddenly looking every one of her years. This complicates matters considerably. Only if you oppose us, Diana pointed out. I don't know what to think, McGonagall admitted. What you're suggesting about Albus, it's difficult to believe. We've worked together for decades. Use the lasso yourself, Diana offered. Ask Harry directly. McGonagall hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Diana gently looped the golden cord around Harry's wrist once more. This time, she controlled the lasso's power, focusing it specifically on McGonagall's questions rather than allowing a complete revelation. Mr. Potter, Harry, McGonagall began hesitantly. Can you tell me how your aunt and uncle treat you? Under the lasso's influence, Harry spoke plainly, without the fear or shame that would normally accompany such admissions. He described the cupboard, the chores, the punishments, the deliberate neglect. He explained how Dudley was encouraged to bully him, how he was punished for doing better than his cousin in school, how he'd learned to hide when Uncle Vernon had been drinking. By the time he finished, tears were streaming down McGonagall's lined face. And Albus knows this? She asked, her voice barely audible. Mrs. Figg reports to him every month, Harry answered, referring to information he wouldn't normally know. She tells him everything. He sends someone called Mundungus Fletcher to watch the house sometimes too. McGonagall's hands trembled. One more question, Harry. Do you know why Albus put these spells on you? To make me a weapon, Harry replied, his childish voice incongruous with the words. To ensure I develop according to his plan. To guarantee I'll face Voldemort when the time comes and die to destroy the Horcrux inside me. Diana gently removed the lasso, and Harry blinked, returning to himself. He looked uncertainly between the two women. Did I say something wrong? He asked quietly. No, Harry, McGonagall said, wiping her eyes. You did nothing wrong. None of this is your fault. She stood, her shoulders squared with new resolve. I owe you an apology. I failed in my duty to protect you. What will you do now? Diana asked, still not entirely sure whether to count McGonagall as an ally. First, I need to verify these spells myself. McGonagall raised her wand again, but this time in a non-threatening gesture. May I cast a diagnostic charm on Harry? It won't hurt him, it will simply reveal any magical influences currently affecting him. Diana nodded, though she remained vigilant. McGonagall waved her wand in an intricate pattern, murmuring words in Latin. The air around Harry shimmered, then exploded into a complex three-dimensional diagram of colored lights, exactly the magical threads Diana had seen earlier. Merlin's beard, McGonagall whispered, her face ashen. It's all true. She stared at the magical display, her experienced eyes clearly recognizing spells Diana could only guess at. After a long moment, she waved her wand again, and the display vanished. "I've been a fool," she said quietly. "A willing, blind fool." "What now?" Diana asked again. McGonagall straightened her robes, a determined glint replacing the shock in her eyes. "Now we get Harry somewhere safe, somewhere outside Albus's immediate reach. Then we find a way to remove these abominable spells." "We?" Diana raised an eyebrow. "I've spent decades believing in Albus Dumbledore's wisdom and goodness," McGonagall said with quiet intensity. "If I've been wrong, if he's capable of this, then I have a great deal to atone for, starting with Harry." Diana studied the older woman, then nodded. "Where do you suggest we go?" "Not Hogwarts, certainly. Nor any known wizarding location in Britain." McGonagall thought for a moment. "Perhaps Gringotts first, the Goblin Bank. They have their own magic, their own sovereignty. Albus has no authority there, and they might be able to help with the spells." "And after that?" McGonagall's lips thinned. "One step at a time, Ms. Prince." "Diana Prince." "Miss Prince." McGonagall nodded briskly. "First Gringotts, then we'll reassess. I should warn you, the moment we appear in Diagon Alley with Harry Potter, will cause quite a stir. He's rather famous in our world." Harry looked up in surprise. "I am." "Another thing kept from you," Diana said gently. "Apparently you're well known among wizards." "For what?" McGonagall and Diana exchanged glances. "For surviving when no one else did," McGonagall answered carefully. "But that's a longer conversation for when we're somewhere secure. For now, we should move quickly, before Albus realizes I'm not returning with you." "He sent you to retrieve me?" Harry asked. "The wards around Privet Drive detected unusual magic. When they showed it centering on you, he dispatched me to investigate." McGonagall grimaced. "He'll be expecting a report soon." Diana knelt to Harry's level. "This means we need to make a choice quickly, Harry. We can try to help you right now, which means leaving with Professor McGonagall, or we can take more time to consider options." Harry glanced toward Privet Drive, then back at Diana. "Will I have to go back to the Dursleys?" "Not if I have any say in it," Diana promised. "Then let's go," Harry said with surprising firmness. "I don't want any more spells on me." Diana stood and turned to McGonagall. "How do we get to this Gringotts?" "Apparition, magical teleportation. I can take you both, but we'll need to be in physical contact." McGonagall held out her hands. Diana lifted Harry into her arms, then placed her free hand on McGonagall's shoulder. "This won't hurt him, will it?" "It's uncomfortable but not painful," McGonagall assured her. "Hold tight to him, and whatever you do, don't let go." As McGonagall began to turn, Diana felt a peculiar sensation, like being compressed from all directions. Harry buried his face against her shoulder as colors swirled around them, and then, with a sudden pop, the pressure released. They stood in a narrow alley beside a busy street unlike anything Diana had seen before. Shops with crooked facades sold cauldrons, broomsticks, owls, and other magical items. People in robes of every color hurried past, some carrying wands openly, others leading children who pressed their noses against windows displaying everything from books that moved to candies that jumped. "Diagon Alley," McGonagall announced quietly. "Stay close and keep Harry's face covered if possible. His scar is instantly recognizable." Diana adjusted her coat around Harry, who was already drawing curious glances from passers-by. They moved quickly through the crowd toward an imposing white marble building that towered over the other shops. "Gringotts," McGonagall explained as they approached. "Run by goblins, who take a dim view of wizarding politics. They care about gold, contracts, and their own sovereignty, in that order." As they climbed the steps, Diana noticed small, fierce-looking creatures in scarlet and gold uniforms guarding the bronze doors. They watched the trio approach with suspicious eyes. Professor McGonagall, one of them acknowledged with a slight bow. His gaze lingered on Diana, eyes narrowing. "And guests? We seek a private consultation on a matter of some urgency," McGonagall replied formally. The goblin's gaze shifted to the bundle in Diana's arms, where a tuft of Harry's black hair was visible. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly. "Enter," he said, gesturing them through the doors. "Griphook will attend you." Inside, they passed through a second set of doors, silver this time, engraved with an ominous warning about the fate of thieves. Beyond lay a vast marble hall where dozens of goblins sat at high counters, weighing coins, examining gems, and scratching in ledgers. Another goblin approached them immediately. "This way," he said without preamble, leading them away from the main hall and down a corridor lined with doors. He ushered them into a private room furnished with a large desk and several chairs, then closed the door firmly behind them. Diana set Harry down, though she kept a protective hand on his shoulder. "I am Griphook," the goblin announced. "Senior Accounts Manager. We detected the arrival of Harry Potter and took the liberty of arranging this meeting." His sharp eyes focused on Diana. "Though we did not anticipate he would arrive in the company of an Amazon warrior." Diana met his gaze steadily. "You recognize what I am?" "Goblins have long memories, Princess Diana." Griphook bowed slightly. "Your mother once negotiated a treaty between our peoples and the Amazons. It still stands." "Then I claim the rights of that treaty now," Diana said, surprised but pleased by this unexpected connection. "I seek sanctuary and assistance for this child, who has been gravely wronged." Griphook's expression remained impassive, but he gestured for them to sit. "Explain." McGonagall quickly outlined what they had discovered: the abuse at the Dursleys, the complex web of spells binding Harry, and Dumbledore's apparent long-term manipulation. Griphook listened without interruption, his long fingers steepled before him. When McGonagall finished, he turned to Harry. "Young Mr. Potter. The Potter accounts have been sealed since your parents' deaths, accessible only upon your majority or by your magical guardian, currently Albus Dumbledore." His tone made clear what he thought of this arrangement. "However, there are provisions for extraordinary circumstances." "What kind of provisions?" Diana asked. "The right of inheritance testing. If Mr. Potter consents to a small blood sample, we can verify not only his identity but also any magical influences affecting his inheritance rights." Griphook's smile revealed pointed teeth. Such a test would, coincidentally, provide a complete catalogue of all spells, potions, and magical bindings currently affecting him. "Would it hurt?" Harry asked quietly. 3 drops of blood only," Griphook assured him. "A moment's discomfort for potentially valuable information." Diana looked to Harry. "It's your choice." Harry nodded solemnly. "I want to know what's been done to me." "Very well." Griphook produced an ornate dagger and a piece of parchment from his desk. 3 drops onto the parchment, Mr. Potter." With Diana's reassuring hand on his back, Harry extended his finger. Griphook pricked it quickly and efficiently, allowing 3 drops of blood to fall onto the parchment before healing the small wound with a touch. The blood spread across the parchment, forming words, diagrams, and symbols in red ink. Griphook studied it intently, his expression growing darker by the second. "This," he finally said, "is unprecedented." He pushed the parchment across the desk. Diana and McGonagall leaned forward to read, while Harry peered curiously between them. The top of the document confirmed Harry's identity and listed his parents, godparents, and magical lineage, which apparently traced back to several notable wizarding families. Below that was a section labeled Active Magical Influences, which spanned nearly 2 feet of parchment in tiny, precise writing. The list confirmed everything the lasso had revealed and more. Each spell was identified by type, purpose, magical signature, and date of casting. Beside each entry was a small symbol indicating its classification under Goblin magical law, and a disturbing number bore the mark for restricted, forbidden, or contractually prohibited. Contractually prohibited? Diana questioned, pointing to the symbol. The Potter family has a long-standing account contract with Gringotts, Griphook explained, barely controlled anger evident in his voice. It specifically prohibits certain magical interventions without explicit consent. Several of these spells violate that contract, particularly the air bindings and the magical inheritance suppressions. McGonagall had gone deathly pale as she read through the list. I knew Albus could be secretive, even manipulative when he believed it necessary, but this. She looked up, her expression haunted. Some of these spells I've never even heard of. Nor should you have, Griphook said grimly. Several are goblin in origin, knowledge that should not be accessible to wizards. At the bottom of the document was a section titled, Foreign Soul Fragment, with detailed information about the Horcrux in Harry's scar. Can you remove these spells? Diana asked directly. Griphook hesitated. Some, yes. The goblin-derived magic we can counter immediately. The standard wizarding bindings would normally require a curse-breaking team, but... He glanced at Diana. The treaty between our peoples includes provisions for magical assistance. We could expedite the process with your help. My help? Diana touched the lasso at her side. You mean this? The lasso of Hestia, or truth, as you call it, is one of the few artifacts capable of separating imposed magic from a person's true self. Griphook nodded. Combined with our breaking techniques, it could sever most of these bindings. Most? McGonagall pressed. Griphook pointed to the Horcrux notation. This is beyond standard curse breaking. Soul magic requires specialized knowledge. But it can be removed. Diana insisted. Yes, Griphook confirmed. Though it would be painful, dangerous, and expensive. Cost is not an issue, Diana stated firmly. Indeed. Griphook's sharp teeth flashed again. As it happens, the Potter vaults contain more than enough gold to cover such a procedure. And given the contractual violations we've uncovered, Gringotts would be motivated to assist. Dumbledore's interference with the Potter heir has implications for all our noble house clients. Harry, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke up. Will it hurt a lot? Taking off all the spells. The adults exchanged glances. I won't lie to you, Harry, Diana said gently. Breaking powerful magic usually involves some pain. But we'll be with you, and we'll make it as quick and comfortable as possible. Harry considered this, then nodded with the simple acceptance of a child who had already endured more than his fair share of pain. I want them gone. Then we shall make it so, Griphook declared. First, we must secure Mr. Potter's legal position. Given the evidence of magical guardian malfeasance, Gringotts can invoke emergency protocols to temporarily suspend Dumbledore's authority. And then? McGonagall asked. Then we break the bindings, Griphook said simply. He rose from his desk. Wait here. I must consult with the director. After Griphook left, Harry turned to Diana. Are you really Wonder Woman? Diana smiled. I am. Dudley has comic books about you. He never lets me read them, but I saw the pictures sometimes. Harry studied her with newfound interest. Can you really fly? Yes, Diana confirmed. And I'm very strong. Strong enough to fight wizards. Diana understood the real question. Strong enough to protect you, even from Dumbledore. Harry seemed satisfied with this answer and turned to McGonagall. Are you going to get in trouble for helping me? The professor's expression softened. Probably. But some things are more important than avoiding trouble, Mr. Potter. I should have remembered that 5 years ago. The door opened, and Griphook returned, accompanied by an older, more elaborately dressed goblin. Director Ragnarok, Griphook announced with deference. The director surveyed them all, his gaze lingering longest on Harry. The Potter heir, he observed. And in quite the interesting company. He nodded to Diana. Princess. It has been many years since an Amazon graced these halls. Director, Diana acknowledged. I seek your help on behalf of this child. So Griphook has explained. Ragnarok approached Harry and, surprisingly, knelt to his level. Young wizard, I understand magic has been used against you without your consent. This violates not only wizard law but goblin principles of integrity. Gringotts stands ready to assist in restoring your magical autonomy. Harry blinked at the formal speech. Thank you, sir. Ragnarok rose. We have prepared a ritual chamber. The process will take several hours and should be begun immediately, before Dumbledore realizes what is happening. McGonagall shifted uncomfortably. He may already be suspicious. I was supposed to report back after investigating the magical disturbance. Then we must move quickly, Ragnarok declared. Princess, your lasso will be instrumental. Are you willing to participate directly in the ritual? Of course, Diana agreed without hesitation. And you, Professor McGonagall? Ragnarok fixed her with a penetrating stare. Your position at Hogwarts places you in a delicate situation. McGonagall straightened. I have already chosen my side, Director. I will do whatever is needed to help Harry. Very well. Ragnarok seemed satisfied. Then follow me. Gringotts is about to interfere quite dramatically in wizarding affairs, something we haven't done in nearly 2 centuries. He led them deeper into the bank, past heavily guarded doors and through corridors that seemed to descend ever further below London. The air grew cooler, and the marble walls gave way to ancient stone carved with runes and symbols Diana didn't recognize but could feel pulsing with power. Finally, they reached a circular chamber lit by torches that burned with blue-white flame. In the center stood a raised stone platform surrounded by channels cut into the floor. 7 goblin cursebreakers in formal regalia waited around the perimeter. The breaking chamber, Ragnarok announced. Used only in the most serious cases of magical binding or curse removal. Harry gripped Diana's hand tightly, suddenly nervous. It looks scary, he whispered. I'll be right beside you, Diana promised, kneeling to look him in the eye. Remember what I told you about being Wonder Woman? I won't let anything bad happen to you. Harry nodded bravely. Okay. One of the goblin cursebreakers approached with a white robe. The child must change into this. All foreign magic must be removed from his person before we begin. Diana helped Harry change behind a screen provided for privacy, carefully removing his oversized hand-me-downs and the broken glasses. Without them, she noticed, his eyes seemed even more startlingly green, and vulnerable. Will I be able to see? He asked anxiously as she set the glasses aside. The ritual will likely correct your vision, the cursebreaker explained. The diagnostic showed vision-damaging spells among the bindings. Once Harry was dressed in a simple white robe, Diana led him to the stone platform. Ragnarok directed her to stand beside it, with the lasso ready. When we begin, loop the lasso around his waist, Ragnarok instructed. It must remain in contact throughout the procedure. The lasso's truth-seeking nature will help identify Harry's true magical signature and separate it from the imposed magic. McGonagall was positioned at Harry's head, her wand at the ready. I'll be monitoring your core stability, Harry, she explained gently. Making sure everything stays balanced as the bindings are removed. Will it hurt right away? Harry asked, his voice small. We'll start with the simplest bindings, Ragnarok assured him. The pain will build gradually as we work toward the more complex spells. You may stop us at any point to rest, though once we begin the Horcrux removal, we cannot pause. Harry lay down on the stone, looking impossibly tiny and fragile. Diana looped her lasso around his waist, and immediately it began to glow with golden light, illuminating the web of spells around Harry's body more clearly than before. 44 dark spells, Diana murmured, counting them again. And dozens more merely restrictive ones. Dumbledore has been thorough, Ragnarok agreed grimly. We begin now. The goblin curse-breakers raised their hands and began a low, guttural chant. The blue flames around the chamber flared higher, and the channels in the floor began to fill with a silvery liquid that glowed with its own light. Diana kept one hand on the lasso and the other on Harry's shoulder as the first binding began to unravel, a simple tracking charm that dissolved with a small shower of green sparks. Harry flinched but didn't cry out. "You're doing well," Diana encouraged him. The next several spells came away relatively easily, minor compulsions related to Harry's daily behaviors at the Dursleys. Each dissolved differently, some with sparks, others with a sound like breaking glass, still others with a dark mist that the goblins quickly banished. As they progressed to stronger bindings, Harry's discomfort became more evident. He gripped Diana's hand tightly, his face contorting as a powerful binding on his accidental magic was systematically dismantled. "Breathe, Harry," Diana instructed, keeping her voice calm despite her rising anger at what had been done to him. "Focus on my voice." McGonagall maintained a steady stream of diagnostic spells, occasionally calling out adjustments to the goblin's work. Despite her initial hesitation, she was fully committed now, her expertise in transfiguration proving useful in understanding how Dumbledore had twisted Harry's natural magical development. An hour passed, then two. The simpler bindings were gone, revealing Harry's natural magical signature, a brilliant emerald green light that pulsed around his body. Now came the more challenging work, the core bindings that restricted his raw magical power. "This will be difficult," Ragnarok warned as the curse-breakers repositioned themselves. "His core has been bound since he was 15 months old. The release will be explosive." "I'm ready," Harry said, though his voice trembled. Diana tightened her grip on his hand. "Remember, I'm right here." The goblins began a new chant, harsher and more commanding. The lasso around Harry's waist glowed blindingly bright, and Harry arched off the platform, a cry of pain escaping him. "Hold steady," Ragnarok ordered as the chamber began to tremble. "The binding is fracturing." Diana could see it, a net of dark red energy wrapped around Harry's magical core, resisting the goblins' efforts to dismantle it. The lasso pulsed with each goblin command, forcing truth to the surface, the truth of Harry's untampered magic fighting against Dumbledore's constraints. With a sound like thunder, the binding suddenly shattered. Raw magical energy exploded outward, knocking several of the goblins off their feet. Diana stood firm, anchored by her superhuman strength, as wave after wave of power washed over them. Harry screamed, a sound of pain but also release, as if something long compressed was finally breaking free. The stone beneath him cracked, and the silvery liquid in the channels began to boil. "Stabilize him!" Ragnarok shouted. McGonagall moved quickly, her wand dancing in complex patterns as she worked to help Harry's magic find a new equilibrium. Gradually, the wild energy began to coalesce back around him, no longer restricted to a fraction of its true potential. When the chaos finally subsided, Harry lay gasping, tears streaming down his face, but his eyes were clearer and more focused than before. "I can see," he whispered in wonder. "Without my glasses." The vision-damaging charm broke with the core binding, one of the curse-breakers explained, picking himself up from the floor. It was linked. Diana helped Harry sit up, supporting his trembling body. "How do you feel?" "Different." Harry looked at his hands in fascination. Like I was in a really tight box and now I'm not." "Your magic was constrained to less than a quarter of its natural capacity," Ragnarok explained, looking both impressed and troubled by the display of power they just witnessed. No wonder Dumbledore felt the need to bind it so thoroughly. "Your natural magical strength is exceptional." They allowed Harry a brief rest, giving him water and a restorative potion. The goblins repaired the damage to the chamber while McGonagall continued to monitor Harry's now unbound magical signature. "The intelligence dampening is gone as well," she noted with a mixture of relief and anger. "Albus placed that on a child." "A child?" Her hands trembled slightly. "I've worked beside him for decades. How could I not have seen?" Dumbledore is very skilled at showing people only what he wishes them to see, Ragnock observed dispassionately. Now comes the most difficult part. The Horcrux. Harry touched his scar, which had begun to seep a black, tar-like substance. It feels angry, he said quietly. Diana exchanged worried glances with McGonagall. The soul fragment was clearly reacting to the removal of the other spells. We must proceed immediately, Ragnock decided. The fragment senses its vulnerability and will fight to remain anchored. The ritual resumed with renewed intensity. This time, all 7 Cursebreakers focused solely on Harry's scar, while Diana wrapped the lasso around his entire upper body, using it to separate Voldemort's corrupt energy from Harry's pure magic. The pain was immediate and severe. Harry screamed as the Cursebreakers worked to isolate the Horcrux, drawing it away from where it had embedded itself in his magical core. Black tendrils fought against the lasso's golden light, seeking to burrow deeper into Harry's being. "Fight it, Harry," Diana urged, holding him steady as he thrashed in agony. "This isn't part of you. Push it away." Whether he understood consciously or not, Harry's magic responded, the brilliant green light pushing back against the darkness. McGonagall's wand moved in constant motion, reinforcing Harry's natural defenses while the goblin systematically severed the Horcruxes' anchors. The chamber filled with a high, inhuman shriek as the soul fragment began to lose its hold. The black substance pouring from Harry's scar formed a cloud above him, twisting into a grotesque approximation of a face before the goblins directed it into a prepared container. With a final, wrenching cry from both Harry and the disembodied fragment, the separation was complete. Harry collapsed back onto the stone, unconscious but still breathing, while the sealed container shuddered violently before going still. Diana immediately checked Harry's pulse, finding it rapid but strong. "Is it done?" she demanded. "Is it gone?" Ragnock passed a detection device over Harry's forehead, where the lightning scar was now a simple white line rather than the inflamed mark it had been before. "The Horcrux is removed," he confirmed. "And contained. It can no longer harm the boy or anyone else." McGonagall sagged with relief, lowering herself to a nearby bench. "Thank Merlin." Diana gathered Harry's limp form into her arms, cradling him protectively. "How long until he wakes?" "An hour, perhaps 2, one of the Cursebreakers estimated. His magic is reordering itself. The process is exhausting but natural." "What now?" McGonagall asked, looking to Ragnock. "Albus will know something has happened. The castle's instruments monitor Harry's condition. Now," Ragnock said firmly, "we secure young Mr. Potter's future, legally and magically. Dumbledore's position as magical guardian is compromised by these revelations. The evidence of magical tampering gives Gringotts cause to invoke protective custody until a suitable guardian can be appointed." "I will take him," Diana stated, her tone brooking no argument. Ragnock studied her thoughtfully. "An Amazon princess as guardian to the boy who lived. Unprecedented, but not without merit. The old treaties between our peoples would recognize your claim, especially given your role in breaking the bindings." "Albus will fight it," McGonagall warned. "He has tremendous political influence." "Let him try," Diana said quietly, her arms tightening around Harry's sleeping form. "I have faced gods and monsters, Professor. One manipulative wizard, no matter how powerful, does not frighten me." Ragnock smiled, showing his pointed teeth. "I believe you, Princess. And Gringotts will support your claim. Dumbledore's violations of the Potter account contracts give us significant leverage." As they spoke, a goblin messenger rushed into the chamber, looking alarmed. "Director. Albus Dumbledore has entered the bank, demanding information about unusual magical activity. He has brought Aurors." McGonagall paled. "Aurors are magical law enforcement. If he's mobilized them already. He must have more monitoring spells than we realized," Ragnock growled. "Quickly, to my private office. There are protections there even Dumbledore cannot breach without declaring open war on the Goblin Nation." Diana rose smoothly, Harry secure in her arms. Lead the way. They hurried through a maze of corridors, hearing commotion from the main hall growing louder behind them. Just as they reached a heavy door emblazoned with Ragnar's personal seal, a voice rang out from behind them. Minerva! Stop right there. Albus Dumbledore stood at the far end of the corridor, resplendent in purple robes spangled with stars. His long white beard and hair gleamed in the torchlight, and his blue eyes, usually twinkling, were hard as ice. Behind him stood two wizards in official-looking robes, wands drawn. Inside, now, Ragnar ordered, pushing open his office door. Diana carried Harry through, with McGonagall following quickly. Before entering himself, Ragnar turned to face Dumbledore. This is Goblin territory, Chief Warlock. You have no authority here. I am Harry Potter's magical guardian, Dumbledore replied, his voice deceptively calm. I demand to see him immediately. Your guardianship is under review due to evidence of magical malfeasance, Ragnar stated formally. Until the review is complete, Mr. Potter remains under Gringotts' protection. Dumbledore's facade of calm cracked slightly. What evidence? What have you done, Ragnar? Nothing that was not necessary to protect a client from unauthorized magical interference. Ragnar's voice was cold. 44 dark spells, Dumbledore. 44. On a child. Did you think we wouldn't notice? That we wouldn't act? Dumbledore's face drained of color. You don't understand the necessity, save your explanations for the inquiry, Ragnar cut him off. This office is now sealed to all but those already within. Press the issue, and you risk violating the Goblin Accords of 1752. With that, Ragnar stepped inside and closed the door. Complex locking mechanisms engaged automatically, and the sounds from the corridor ceased entirely. Silence wards, Ragnar explained, moving to his desk. We have perhaps an hour before Dumbledore navigates the bureaucratic channels necessary to force the issue. Diana placed Harry gently on a couch along one wall, covering him with her coat. He stirred slightly but didn't wake. What options do we have? She asked directly. Several, Ragnar replied, pulling documents from a drawer. First, we formalize your claim as Harry's guardian under the Amazon Protection Clause of our ancient treaty. Second, we transfer control of the Potter vaults from Dumbledore to Gringotts management until Harry comes of age. Third. He smiled grimly. We prepare evidence of Dumbledore's magical tampering for distribution to certain interested parties should he push too aggressively. Blackmail? McGonagall asked, sounding troubled despite everything. Insurance, Ragnar corrected. Dumbledore's reputation is his most valuable asset. The knowledge that he placed dark bindings on the boy who lived, left him with abusive muggles, and allowed a piece of Voldemort's soul to remain in his head, it would destroy him publicly. McGonagall couldn't argue with this assessment. What about Harry legally? The Ministry won't simply allow Diana to take him. The Ministry has no jurisdiction over Amazon protection claims, Ragnar explained, drafting rapidly. It predates the Ministry's formation. Once formalized, even the Wisengamot cannot easily overturn it. Diana watched Harry sleep, his face peaceful perhaps for the first time in years. And if we need to leave England? Will these protections extend internationally? They will, Ragnar confirmed. Though I would recommend securing additional magical protections before traveling far. Dumbledore's reach is long. A soft moan from the couch drew their attention. Harry was stirring, his eyes fluttering open. Diana moved immediately to his side. Harry? Can you hear me? His eyes focused on her, clearer and brighter than before. Diana? He sat up slowly, looking around in confusion. What happened? I remember pain and then, nothing. All the spells are gone, Diana told him gently. Including the dark thing in your scar. Harry's hand flew to his forehead, feeling the now smooth skin where the lightning bolt had been. It doesn't hurt anymore. It always hurt a little before. How do you feel? McGonagall asked, approaching cautiously. Harry considered the question seriously. Different. Bigger somehow, inside. He looked at his hands, where small sparks of green magic danced across his fingertips. And I can feel my magic now. Ragnarok nodded approvingly. Your natural magical sensitivity has been restored. With proper training, you will become exceptionally powerful. Is the bad wizard going to come for me? Harry asked suddenly, his perceptiveness catching the adults off guard. The one who put all the spells on me. Diana sat beside him. Dumbledore is outside right now, trying to get to you, she said honestly. But we're making arrangements to keep you safe from him. Will I go with you? Harry looked up at Diana hopefully. If you want to. Yes, please, Harry said immediately. You're Wonder Woman. And you didn't lie to me or hurt me. The simple childish logic was heartbreaking in its clarity. Diana smiled, brushing his unruly hair from his forehead. Then that's what we'll do. Ragnarok presented a document. This formalizes Princess Diana's claim as your magical guardian under Amazon protection law. It requires a drop of blood from both of you to activate. Diana looked to Harry. Another drop of blood. Is that all right? Harry nodded bravely. I don't mind. The ritual was simple, a single drop of blood from each of them onto the parchment, which flared golden before settling into a formal document with an ornate seal. It is done, Ragnarok declared. Albus Dumbledore is no longer Harry Potter's magical guardian. All previous arrangements regarding his placement and care are null and void. As if on cue, a magical alarm sounded. Ragnarok glanced at a monitoring crystal on his desk. Dumbledore has petitioned the chief goblin liaison at the ministry. The political battle begins. Can he reverse what we've done? Diana asked. Not easily, and not quickly, Ragnarok assured her. But he will try every avenue available to him. You should leave England as soon as possible, at least until Harry is older and better able to protect himself. I have a home in Paris, Diana said. We could go there first, then perhaps to Themyscira for additional protection. McGonagall looked torn. I should return to Hogwarts. My sudden disappearance would only heighten Albus's suspicions. What will you tell him? Diana asked. As little as possible, McGonagall replied grimly. That I found Harry in the company of a magical being who invoked ancient protections. That Gringotts verified evidence of magical tampering and acted accordingly. He'll know you've turned against him, Ragnarok warned. McGonagall straightened her spine. Then so be it. I've spent too many years turning a blind eye to his more questionable methods. No more. Ragnarok nodded respectfully. Gringotts can arrange discreet transportation to France. An international port key, a magical transportation device, he added for Diana's benefit. It can be ready within the hour. What about my stuff? Harry asked suddenly. My blanket, I left it at the park. Diana smiled gently. We'll get you new things, Harry. Better things. But it was my mom's, Harry said quietly. Mrs. Fig told me once. It's the only thing I have from her. Diana exchanged glances with McGonagall. Is there any way to retrieve it? I could go, McGonagall offered. I need to leave separately anyway to create a diversion. I can check the park and bring it to you before you depart. Thank you, Harry said gratefully. Ragnarok moved to a cabinet and withdrew several pouches and a small wooden box. Mr. Potter should take these. Emergency funds, his family signet ring, and a selection of protective amulets from the Potter vaults. My family had vaults? Harry asked, eyes wide. With stuff in them? Several vaults, Ragnarok confirmed. With a great many valuable and historical items. As your guardian, Princess Diana now has access to manage them on your behalf. He handed the items to Diana, along with a folder of documents. These explain Harry's financial situation and magical heritage. You'll find it substantial. While Diana examined the documents with surprise, she hadn't considered the financial implications of guardianship. Ragnarok gave McGonagall instructions for returning to the main part of the bank. Take the Northwest Passage. It will bring you out near the foreign exchange counters. Dumbledore is currently in the main hall with the Aurors. If questioned, you were investigating unusual magical signatures as requested but found nothing conclusive. McGonagall nodded, then turned to Harry. Mr. Potter, Harry. I want to apologize for not checking on you all these years. I had concerns about your placement with the Dursleys from the beginning, but I deferred to Albus's judgment. It's okay, Harry said with the easy forgiveness of childhood. You're helping me now. McGonagall's eyes glistened. Indeed I am. And I'll continue to help from Hogwarts, gathering information and resources for your future education. She hesitated, then added, your parents would be proud of your courage today. With that, she squeezed Harry's shoulder, nodded to Diana and Ragnarok, and departed through the indicated passage. Now, Ragnarok said briskly, let us prepare for your departure. The portkey will take you directly to the magical quarter of Paris. From there, I suggest using Muggle transportation to reach your residence, Princess. It will be harder for Dumbledore to track. I understand, Diana agreed. And Harry's magical education? Will he need specialized training now that his abilities are unbound? Most certainly, Ragnarok confirmed. His power levels are extraordinary, especially for a child so young. Untrained, his magic could become dangerous, to himself and others. Harry looked worried. I don't want to hurt anyone. You won't, Diana assured him. We'll find the right teachers. The French magical community is less insular than Britain's, Ragnarok suggested. They may provide resources without immediately reporting to Dumbledore. Additionally, he hesitated. The Amazon heritage includes its own magical traditions, does it not? Diana nodded. Yes, though different from wand-based magic. But the principles of control and focus would translate. A combination approach might serve best, Ragnarok decided. Wizarding techniques for specific applications, Amazon methods for broader control. Harry listened to this discussion with fascination. Will I get a wand like Professor McGonagall's? Eventually, Diana told him. But first, we'll focus on understanding and controlling the magic inside you. Ragnarok handed Diana a small golden key. This activates the international portkey. He gestured to an ordinary-looking fountain pen on his desk. It will trigger precisely 40 minutes from now, enough time for Professor McGonagall to return with Harry's blanket and for the initial chaos of Dumbledore's protest to subside. Diana pocketed the key. Thank you, Director, for everything you've done today. The Goblin Nation honors its treaties, Princess, Ragnarok replied formally. And we do not tolerate the magical binding of children. Dumbledore overstepped in ways that would horrify most of Wizarding society if they knew. Will they know? Harry asked. Will you tell people what he did to me? Ragnarok considered the question seriously. That, Mr. Potter, will ultimately be your decision when you're older. For now, strategic information shared with key individuals will provide better protection than public scandal. A soft chime sounded, and a small door at the side of the office opened to reveal McGonagall, slightly out of breath but triumphant, Harry's tattered blanket in her hands. Got it, she said, handing the blanket to Harry, who clutched it gratefully. And created quite a diversion. Albus thinks you've been taken to the goblin healing chambers beneath the bank. He's currently negotiating access with the head healer, who is, of course, deliberately misunderstanding his requests. Ragnarok chuckled. Excellent. That should provide ample cover for your departure. Diana helped Harry into a clean set of clothes provided by the goblins, simple but well-made trousers and a shirt that actually fit him, likely the first properly sized clothes he'd worn since infancy. She donned her own overcoat again, concealing her armor for travel through the magical quarter of Paris. "Are you ready?" she asked Harry as the appointed time drew near. Harry nodded, clutching his blanket in one hand and Diana's hand in the other. "What will happen to the Dursleys?" The question surprised the adults. Diana knelt to his level. "You don't need to worry about them anymore. They can't hurt you now." "I know," Harry said. "But they were mean to me because they had to take me, right? Because the wizard put me there. Maybe they didn't want me either." Diana's heart ached at the child's attempt to understand the cruelty he'd endured. "Nothing excuses how they treated you, Harry. Nothing. But they won't be punished if that's what you're asking. We're focused on keeping you safe, not seeking vengeance." This seemed to satisfy Harry. He looked around at Ragnarok's office, then at McGonagall. "Will I ever see you again?" "I'm counting on it, Mr. Potter," McGonagall replied with unexpected warmth. "Perhaps not for a few years, but someday, I hope to see you at Hogwarts, on your own terms, not Albus's." Ragnarok placed the fountain pen portkey on his desk. "It's time. Both of you must be touching the portkey when it activates." Diana lifted Harry into her arms, ensuring he had a secure grip on his blanket. "Touch the pen with me, Harry." Together, they reached for the portkey. The last thing they saw before the world dissolved in a swirl of magic and motion was McGonagall's raised hand in farewell and Ragnarok's satisfied smile. When the spinning stopped, they stood in a quiet courtyard surrounded by elegant buildings with distinctly magical touches, window boxes where flowers changed colors, a fountain whose water flowed upward, and signs in French advertising magical supplies and services. Place Clichy, Diana identified, recognizing the magical quarter of Paris where she had occasionally conducted business related to magical artifacts for the Louvre. "We made it." Harry, looking slightly dizzy from the portkey travel, peered around with wonder. "Is this France?" "It looks prettier than Privet Drive." Diana laughed softly. "Yes, this is France. And yes, it's much prettier than Privet Drive." She set him down gently. "Do you think you can walk? We should leave the magical area quickly." Harry nodded, though he kept a tight hold on her hand as they navigated the cobblestone streets toward the hidden entrance to the Muggle world. People stared as they passed, partly at Diana's striking appearance, but increasingly at Harry as wizards and witches recognized the famous lightning scar that, though faded, was still visible if one knew to look for it. "Keep your head down," Diana murmured, quickening their pace. "We're almost there." They reached the exit just as excited whispers began to spread through the crowd. "C'est Harry Potter. Le survivant. Que est la femme avec lui?" Diana ushered Harry through the magical barrier and into a quiet Parisian side street. The contrast was immediate, from the whimsical architecture and magical bustle to the ordinary charm of non-magical Paris. "This way," Diana directed, leading Harry toward the main street where they could find a taxi to her apartment. "My home isn't far." As they walked, Harry looked up at the elegant buildings and tree-lined boulevards with wide eyes. "It's beautiful." "It is," Diana agreed. "And you're safe here, Harry." "We both are. For now, at least." She had no illusions that Dumbledore would give up easily. The manipulative old wizard had invested too much in his plans for Harry to simply let him go. But Diana had faced gods and monsters, fought in wars and stood against tyrants. One wizard, no matter how powerful, would not take this child from her protection. Harry's hand tightened around hers, and she looked down to find him watching her with those remarkably perceptive green eyes. "Are you my family now?" he asked simply. Diana felt something shift in her heart, a protective fierceness she hadn't expected but welcomed. "Yes, Harry," she answered. "I am your family now." And as they walked together through the streets of Paris, away from Dumbledore's manipulations and toward a future neither of them could fully predict, Diana knew that her impulsive intervention had set them both on a new path. The boy who lived was now free from his bindings, and Wonder Woman had found an unexpected new purpose, one forged not in battle, but in the simple act of protecting a child who deserved so much more than fate had given him. Behind them, the magical world was erupting with the news that Harry Potter had vanished. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and Dumbledore's inevitable counterattack. But for this moment, walking hand in hand through Paris as the evening lights began to twinkle, there was only a boy and his guardian, both finding something they hadn't known they were missing. Chapter 2, Breaking the Chains. Diana's Parisian apartment occupied the top floor of a historic building overlooking the Seine. Spacious and elegant, with high ceilings and tall windows that filled the rooms with light, it was worlds away from the cupboard under the stairs. Harry stood in the center of the living room, taking in the art on the walls, the comfortable furniture, and the bookshelves filled with volumes in dozens of languages. "This is all yours?" he asked, his voice hushed with awe. Diana set down the small bag of emergency supplies Ragnar had provided. "It's ours now." Harry wandered to the windows, pressing his hands against the glass as he gazed out at the twinkling lights of Paris. "I've never been outside of Little Whinging before today." The simple statement broke Diana's heart. 5 years old, and his entire world had been a cupboard, a house where he wasn't wanted, and a neighborhood where he was treated as a freak. "You'll see much more of the world now," she promised. "But first, you need rest. It's been an overwhelming day." Harry nodded, though he seemed reluctant to leave the window. "Where will I sleep?" Diana led him to a guest bedroom, spacious, with a comfortable bed and its own attached bathroom. "Here. Tomorrow we can make it more suitable for a child your age." Harry approached the bed cautiously, as if expecting a trick. "This whole room is for me." "All yours," Diana confirmed. She opened a dresser drawer and pulled out a soft t-shirt. "This will be too big, but it'll work as pajamas until we can shop tomorrow." While Harry changed in the bathroom, Diana quickly assessed the apartment's security. The standard locks and alarm system were adequate for ordinary threats, but if Dumbledore was as determined as she suspected, magical protections would be necessary. She made a mental note to contact some of her more mystically inclined allies first thing in the morning. Harry emerged from the bathroom swimming in her t-shirt, which hung to his ankles. Despite everything he'd been through, he managed a small smile. "It's like a dress." Diana smiled back. "A very fashionable one." She pulled back the covers, and Harry climbed into bed, clutching his mother's blanket against his chest. "Diana," he asked as she tucked the covers around him. "Why did that wizard put all those spells on me?" Diana sat on the edge of the bed, considering how to answer. "From what we learned today, he believed he was preparing you for something difficult in the future. But instead of helping you grow strong on your own, he tried to control exactly how you would develop." "Because of the evil wizard? The one who hurt my parents?" "Yes. There seems to be a connection between you and this dark wizard, Voldemort. Dumbledore was trying to make sure you would face him again someday." Harry's brow furrowed. "But I'm just a kid." "Exactly. That's why what he did was wrong. Those choices should have been yours to make when you were older, not forced on you as a baby." Harry nodded solemnly, processing this. "Will he try to find me?" "Probably," Diana admitted. "But I won't let him take you back to that life. I promise." Harry studied her face intently, then asked, "Do Amazons always keep their promises?" "Always," Diana said firmly. "Now try to sleep. Tomorrow will be a busy day." As she rose to leave, Harry caught her hand. "Thank you for finding me." Diana squeezed his small fingers gently. "Thank you for being brave enough to come with me." She left his door cracked open and a small lamp burning, guessing correctly that total darkness might remind him too much of his cupboard. In her own room, Diana changed out of her armor into comfortable clothes, but kept her lasso and bracelets close at hand. She was under no illusions about the challenges ahead. Dumbledore had spent years constructing his plan for Harry. He would not abandon it easily. Diana woke at dawn, instantly alert to a small presence in her doorway. Harry stood there, hair even more unruly from sleep, watching her uncertainly. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to get up, he explained softly. Diana beckoned him in. You're allowed to get up whenever you wake, Harry. This isn't Privet Drive. He padded across the room and climbed up beside her. I thought maybe yesterday was a dream. Not a dream, Diana assured him, brushing his hair back from his forehead where the scar was now just a faint line. How do you feel this morning? Harry considered this seriously. Hungry. And he wiggled his fingers, where small sparks of green magic still occasionally danced across his skin. Kind of buzzy inside. That's your magic, Diana explained. Now that the bindings are gone, you need to learn how to control it. But first, breakfast. In the kitchen, Harry watched with fascination as Diana prepared a simple meal of eggs, fruit, and toast. When she set the plate before him, he stared at the portion size. All of this is for me. Every bite, Diana confirmed, sitting across from him with her own plate. You need proper nutrition to heal and grow. Harry ate slowly at first, then with increasing enthusiasm as his body recognized what it had been deprived of for so long. Diana noted with satisfaction that his color already looked better than yesterday. What happens now? He asked between mouthfuls. First, we need better protections for this apartment. Then shopping for clothes and necessities for you. And we need to find someone who can help teach you to control your magic. But I thought the goblins took off all the spells. They removed what was placed on you, Diana clarified. But your natural magic is still very powerful and needs training. Think of it like learning to walk or ride a bicycle, it takes practice and guidance. After breakfast, Diana made several phone calls while Harry explored the apartment. The first was to a woman named Zatanna Zatara, a powerful mystic who owed Diana a favor. Magical protections against a wizard. Not my usual gig, but I can help, Zatanna agreed after Diana explained the situation. I'll be there by noon. ND. Bringing home a kid is a big deal, even for Wonder Woman. It wasn't planned, Diana admitted. But it was necessary. Her next call was to her museum colleague, Dr. Helena Sandsmark, an expert in ancient cultures who had occasional contact with the magical world through her archaeological work. A magical tutor for a 5-year-old wizard? Helena sounded intrigued. I might know someone. There's a French wizard I worked with on that dig in Normandy, Nicolas Flamel. Bit of a recluse, but brilliant with young students. Flamel. Diana recognized the name from her historical studies. I thought he would be much older. He is. Very much so. But that means he's seen enough to be open-minded. I'll contact him and see if he's willing to meet you. After finishing her calls, Diana found Harry in the library, carefully examining a bronze statue of Athena. He looked up guiltily when she entered, as if expecting to be scolded for touching things. It's all right, she assured him. You're free to explore. Is she a goddess? Harry asked, pointing to the statue. Yes. Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare. Harry nodded seriously. I like her owl. Diana smiled. I have friends coming to help us today. One will place protective spells on our home, and another is trying to find you a magic teacher. Will they be nice? Harry asked, a hint of anxiety in his voice. Yes, Diana promised. And if they weren't, they wouldn't be allowed to stay. This is your home now too, Harry. Your comfort matters here. The simple statement made his eyes widen. Really? Really? Now, let's see if we can find something better for you to wear until we go shopping. Zatanna arrived precisely at noon, dressed in her stage magician's outfit, top hat, tailcoat, and fishnet stockings. Her appearance made Harry giggle, which Diana counted as an immediate win. You must be Harry, Zatanna said, crouching to his level and offering her hand. I'm Zatanna, mistress of magic and friend of Diana's. Harry shook her hand solemnly. Do you do magic like me or like Diana? Neither, actually. Zatanna grinned and whispered, "Ta, eterka tibber." Her top hat lifted off her head, and a white rabbit poked its nose out before hopping onto the floor. Harry gasped in delight. "You talk backwards." "For spells, yes," Zatanna confirmed. "Everyone's magic works a little differently." Diana explained what they needed: protections against magical tracking, scrying, and unauthorized entry, particularly focused on keeping out wizards like Dumbledore. Zatanna circled the apartment, examining the existing energy flows. "Nice place, good bones. I can layer my protections with the building's natural defenses." She glanced at Harry. "Mind if I sense your magical signature, kiddo? It'll help me tune the ward specifically against those looking for you." Harry looked to Diana, who nodded encouragingly. "It's okay." Zatanna knelt before him and gently placed her hand above his head, not quite touching. "Just stay still for a moment, wow." She blinked in surprise. "That's some serious mojo you've got, Harry. No wonder this Dumbledore guy wants you back." "Is that bad?" Harry asked anxiously. "Not bad at all," Zatanna assured him. "Just means we'll need extra strength protections." She stood and rolled up her sleeves. "This might take a while, and some of it will look pretty flashy. Why don't you two hang out in the kitchen while I work?" For the next 2 hours, Zatanna moved from room to room, chanting her backward spells and occasionally producing spectacular light shows as her magic interacted with the building's structure. Harry watched, fascinated, from the kitchen doorway while Diana prepared lunch. Finally, Zatanna joined them, removing her top hat and fanning herself with it. "Phew. That was a workout. But you're now protected against pretty much any magical snooping or intrusion short of a full-scale assault." "Thank you," Diana said, pushing a plate of food toward her friend. "What do we need to know about these protections?" "They're keyed to both of you, so you can come and go freely. Anyone else needs an invitation from one of you to enter. And I've added a special alarm system that will warn you if anyone with ill intent approaches." Zatanna bit into a sandwich. "Oh, and I left you an emergency escape option, that antique mirror in the hall. Say Gitefas 1, and it'll create a portal to my place in New York. Just in case." Harry, who had been quiet during this explanation, suddenly asked, "Can you teach me magic?" Zatanna smiled gently. "Sorry, kiddo. My kind of magic wouldn't work well for you, you need someone who understands wizard magic. But I can show you some simple protection charms before I go." After lunch, Zatanna taught Harry a basic shielding visualization that would help him control his still fluctuating magical energy. Diana watched with pride as Harry concentrated intensely, creating a small bubble of green light between his palms. "He's a natural," Zatanna observed as she prepared to leave. "But he needs proper wizarding training soon. His magic is powerful but unstable." "I know," Diana replied. "We're working on it." After Zatanna departed, Diana took Harry shopping. She chose a small boutique where the owner, Madame Beaumont, was known for her discretion. The elderly Frenchwoman clucked sympathetically at Harry's obviously borrowed clothes and set about outfitting him with a complete wardrobe, tactfully ignoring his wide-eyed amazement at being allowed to choose his own clothes. "This is the most I've ever had," Harry whispered to Diana as Madame Beaumont wrapped their purchases. "I usually just get Dudley's old things." "These are just the beginning," Diana promised. "You'll have everything you need from now on." Their next stop was a bookshop, where Diana selected a variety of children's books in both English and French, reasoning that Harry could begin learning the language of his new home. Then a toy store, where Harry moved through the aisles with almost reverent disbelief, finally selecting a stuffed lion and a set of building blocks after much encouragement from Diana. By late afternoon, Harry was visibly tiring, the excitement and emotional weight of the past 2 days catching up with him. Diana gathered their packages and hailed a taxi back to the apartment. "We did well today," she told him as he leaned against her in the back seat, half asleep. "Tomorrow we can focus on your magic." Harry mumbled against her side. Is it really mine now? My magic? Yes, Harry. It's always been yours. Now it's free, like you. The next morning brought a letter delivered by an elegant tawny owl that tapped impatiently at the kitchen window. Diana opened it cautiously, but the seal showed it was from Gringotts, not Dumbledore. Director Ragnarok's message was concise and concerning. Princess Diana, Dumbledore has mobilized the British Ministry of Magic to classify Harry Potter as a kidnapped minor. International alerts have been issued. The Goblin Nation does not recognize these claims due to our treaty with the Amazons, but wizarding authorities may not be so discerning. Additionally, our examination of the Horcrux revealed disturbing information. The soul fragment is one of several Voldemort created. The others must be destroyed before he can truly be defeated. Professor McGonagall has uncovered information about Sirius Black, Harry's godfather, who was imprisoned without trial after your parents' deaths. Evidence suggests his innocence. Exercise caution. Dumbledore's influence is considerable. May your gold always flow. Ragnarok. Diana read the letter twice before folding it carefully. The situation was escalating faster than she'd anticipated. They needed allies and information, quickly. As if summoned by her thoughts, another tap came at the window, this time from a tiny, hyperactive owl carrying a note from Helena Sandsmark. Diana, Nicholas Flamel has agreed to meet you and the boy today at 2 p.m. His address is enclosed. He's intrigued, to say the least. Be prepared for questions. He's been alive for over 600 years and doesn't waste time on pleasantries. Good luck. Helena. Diana found Harry in his room, carefully arranging his new clothes in the dresser, each item placed with deliberate care that spoke volumes about how little he'd ever had to call his own. Harry, we have an appointment this afternoon with someone who might help with your magical training. Harry looked up, a small crease forming between his eyebrows. The wizard from Gringotts also sent a letter, didn't he? I saw the owl. Diana raised an eyebrow, impressed by his observation skills. Yes. Director Ragnarok wanted to warn us that Dumbledore is trying to have you officially classified as kidnapped. Fear flickered across Harry's face. Will they take me away from you? No, Diana said firmly. But it means we need to be careful when we go out, and we need to find people we can trust. Harry nodded, solemn beyond his years. Like this person we're meeting today? Nicholas Flamel. He's a very old and respected wizard who might be able to teach you. How old? Over 600 years old. Harry's eyes widened. That's even older than you. Diana laughed, pleased that he felt comfortable enough to joke with her. Much older. I'm barely a century. After a light lunch, they prepared to visit Flamel. Diana chose casual but elegant attire, while Harry proudly wore some of his new clothes. The address Helena had provided led them to a nondescript building in an ancient part of Paris, with a door that seemed to shimmer slightly when viewed directly. Diana knocked 3 times. The door swung open immediately, revealing not the ancient wizard she had expected, but a handsome man who appeared to be in his mid-40s, with keen blue eyes and auburn hair streaked with silver. Princess Diana of Themyscira, he said, his voice carrying the faintest trace of an accent so old it was no longer identifiable. And young Mr. Potter. Please come in. The interior of Flamel's home was a startling contrast to its mundane exterior, a vast, impossibly large space filled with astronomical instruments, bubbling potions, and towering bookshelves that stretched beyond what should have been the ceiling. Magical light illuminated the space, and various objects floated or moved of their own accord. Dimensional expansion, Flamel explained, noticing their surprised expressions. After 6 centuries, one accumulates rather a lot of belongings. He led them to a comfortable sitting area where tea and cakes were already waiting. Unlike many powerful men Diana had encountered throughout history, Flamel made a point of addressing Harry directly. So, young man. I understand you've had quite an adventure recently. Bindings removed, guardian changed, and now you need to learn control. Is that correct? Harry nodded, visibly relaxing at the wizard's straightforward manner. Yes, sir. My magic feels buzzy. Sometimes things happen when I don't mean them to. Accidental magic, Flamel nodded. Normal for a wizard your age, but I suspect yours is particularly potent given what was done to you. He turned to Diana. Helena explained some of it, but I'd appreciate the full story. Diana recounted everything, finding Harry, discovering the bindings, the confrontation with McGonagall and subsequently Dumbledore, and their escape to Paris. As she spoke, Flamel's expression grew increasingly troubled. 44 dark spells? He asked when she finished. That goes beyond manipulation into the realm of criminal magical interference. And a Horcrux in a child? Dumbledore left it there deliberately. According to what the lasso revealed, yes, Diana confirmed. He planned for Harry to sacrifice himself when the time was right. Flamel's eyes flashed with anger. Albus always did believe too firmly in his own cleverness. He looked at Harry with new intensity. May I examine your magical signature? I promise I won't cast anything on you without explanation and permission. Harry glanced at Diana, who nodded encouragingly. Okay. Unlike Zatanna's theatrical approach, Flamel's examination was subtle, a small crystal held near Harry's heart, which changed colors rapidly as the ancient alchemist murmured under his breath. Extraordinary, he finally said. The removal was cleanly done, but there are echoes. Magical scars, if you will. And your natural magic is attempting to compensate by accelerating its development. He set the crystal down. You need training immediately, before your magic starts seeking its own outlets. Will you teach me? Harry asked directly. Flamel studied him for a moment, then smiled. Yes, Mr. Potter, I believe I will. It's been decades since I took an apprentice, but your case is exceptional. He glanced at Diana. With your guardian's approval, of course. What would this apprenticeship involve? Diana asked. Daily lessons, initially focusing on magical control rather than spellcasting. The boy needs to establish a relationship with his magic before he starts directing it. Flamel leaned forward. I propose 3 hours each morning, here at my home. Once he has basic control, we can discuss more formal wizarding education. What about Dumbledore? Harry asked suddenly. Won't he look for me here? Flamel's smile turned sharp. Albus and I have a complicated history. He would not dare intrude upon my domain without invitation, especially not after what you've told me today. His eyes twinkled. Besides, my home exists in several places simultaneously. Quite difficult to find unless I wish it to be found. Diana considered the offer. Flamel was legendary even among immortals, known for his creation of the Philosopher's Stone and his contributions to alchemy. If anyone could help Harry safely develop his magical abilities, it would be he. When would you like to begin? She asked. Tomorrow morning, Flamel replied promptly. 9 o'clock. The sooner we start, the better. He looked at Harry. Magic is like a river, young Potter. Right now, yours is flowing freely for the first time, but without proper banks, it may flood or change course unpredictably. Harry nodded solemnly. I'll work hard. I'm sure you will. Flamel rose. Now, before you leave, I have something for you. He crossed to a cabinet and removed a small, golden amulet on a chain. This is a magical dampener, not a binding, he added quickly, seeing Diana's expression. It simply mutes accidental magical outbursts. Wear it when you're in public or if you feel your magic becoming difficult to control. Harry accepted the amulet, slipping it over his head. Thank you, sir. As they prepared to leave, Flamel drew Diana aside briefly. Princess, you should know that word of your guardianship of Harry Potter is spreading through certain magical circles. While many will respect Amazon protection rights, others, particularly those aligned with Dumbledore or with darker interests, may not be so honorable. We have protections in place, Diana assured him. Good. But consider this as well, the boy needs more than magical training. He needs allies within the wizarding world itself. Flamel handed her a small card. This is the contact information for Amélie Delacour, France's Deputy Minister for International Magical Cooperation. She's trustworthy and no friend to British magical imperialism. She may be able to provide political protection that even Dumbledore would hesitate to challenge. Diana pocketed the card. Thank you. Flamel's eyes crinkled. It's been centuries since I've witnessed anything truly new, Princess. A child wizard under Amazon protection? That's something even I haven't seen before. He glanced at Harry, who was examining a particularly interesting magical instrument nearby. Take good care of him. He's exceptional in ways even he doesn't yet understand. Harry's lessons with Flamel began the next morning. Diana accompanied him for the first session, watching as the ancient alchemist guided Harry through basic magical awareness exercises. Magic responds to intent and emotion, Flamel explained, placing a feather before Harry. Before wizards used wands or words, they used will. Close your eyes and feel your magic. Don't try to direct it yet, just acknowledge its presence. Harry closed his eyes, his small face scrunched in concentration. A soft green glow surrounded him, pulsing gently. Good, Flamel encouraged. Now, still keeping your eyes closed, reach for the feather with your magic. Don't try to move it, just touch it, become aware of it. Diana watched, fascinated, as tendrils of green energy extended from Harry toward the feather, which quivered slightly. Excellent, Flamel said softly. Open your eyes. Harry obeyed, blinking in surprise when he saw the feather floating a few inches above the table. I did that? You did, Flamel confirmed. Without a wand, without an incantation. Pure magical intent. He smiled at Diana. Most young wizards must train for years to achieve wandless magic. Your godson has natural talent. Harry beamed at the word godson, and Diana felt a surge of protectiveness. In just a few days, this brave, resilient child had claimed a place in her heart. Over the following week, a routine emerged. Mornings were spent with Flamel, where Harry learned to connect with and gradually control his magic. Afternoons were for more ordinary activities, exploring Paris, learning French, reading, and simply enjoying the freedom to be a child. Diana also made contact with Amélie Delacour, who proved to be a formidable ally. The elegant French which arrived at Diana's apartment with a portfolio of legal documents and a determination to protect Harry from British interference. Britain's minister believes it owns Harry Potter, she declared, her accent becoming more pronounced as her indignation rose. As if a child is property of the state. But France does not recognize their jurisdiction in this matter. She produced official papers recognizing Diana's guardianship under French magical law. These grant you legal protection within French borders. If Dumbledore or his British lackeys attempt to seize the boy, they will be committing an act of international magical aggression. What about the Horcrux issue? Diana asked, after Harry had gone to bed. Ragnarok's letter mentioned there are more. Amélie's expression darkened. Yes, this is troubling news. I have contacts researching the matter discreetly. If he who must not be named created multiple Horcruxes, it explains why Dumbledore is so fixated on the boy. She tapped her fingers thoughtfully against her teacup. There is also the matter of the prophecy. Prophecy? It is not widely known, but there was a prophecy concerning Harry Potter and the Dark Lord. Dumbledore witnessed it shortly before the Potters went into hiding. My sources suggest it is what led to their targeting in the first place. Diana frowned. What exactly did this prophecy say? The exact wording is unknown to me, but it apparently named a child born as the 7th month dies who would have the power to vanquish the Dark Lord. Dumbledore believed this referred to Harry Potter. So his manipulations were designed to fulfill this prophecy, Diana concluded. At Harry's expense. Precisely. Amélie's expression was grim. Prophecies are dangerous things, princess. They take on a life of their own when people believe in them too strongly. Diana was no stranger to prophecies. In her long life, she had seen how they could become self-fulfilling when powerful people decided to enforce them. "Harry will face this Voldemort again, won't he?" she asked quietly. "I fear it is inevitable," Amelie admitted. "But how and when and with what preparation, these things are not fixed. Dumbledore chose one path. You have opened another." After Amelie left, Diana found herself standing in the doorway of Harry's bedroom, watching him sleep peacefully. The boy had already endured so much, and more challenges lay ahead. But at least now he wouldn't face them alone. 2 weeks after their arrival in Paris, the first direct challenge to their new life arrived in the form of a delegation from the British Ministry of Magic. Diana was teaching Harry basic Amazon combat stances in the living room. For discipline and focus, she had explained, when Zatanna's magical alarm pulsed a warning. "Someone's coming," Diana said, immediately on alert. "Someone the wards recognize as a threat." Harry's eyes widened, but he assumed the ready position Diana had taught him, small fists raised. The determined set of his jaw made her heart swell with pride even as she moved protectively in front of him. A sharp knock came at the door. Diana approached cautiously, checking the magical peephole Zatanna had installed. Outside stood 3 people in formal robes, 2 men and a woman, all bearing the insignia of the British Ministry. "Ministry of Magic," called a pompous male voice. "Open in the name of Minister Fudge." Diana opened the door but remained firmly in the doorway, blocking entrance. "May I help you?" The lead wizard, a portly man with an officious manner, blinked in surprise at her imposing presence. Yes. I am Cornelius Fudge, Minister for Magic. These are Aurors Dawlish and Bones. We're here regarding Harry Potter." "What about him?" Diana asked coolly. "We have reason to believe he is being held here illegally," Fudge blustered. "Removed from his legal guardians without proper authority." "I am his legal guardian," Diana interrupted, producing the papers Amelie had provided. "Recognized by both Gringotts Bank under the Amazon Protection Treaty and by the French Ministry of Magic." The female Auror, Bones, took the documents and examined them carefully. "These appear to be in order, Minister." Fudge looked flustered. But Dumbledore insisted. "Albus Dumbledore's guardianship was revoked due to magical malfeasance," Diana stated firmly. "Gringotts has the evidence, which I'm sure they would share with appropriate legal authorities." "We would need to see the boy," the male Auror, Dawlish, insisted. "To verify his well-being." Diana hesitated, then called over her shoulder, "Harry, would you mind coming here for a moment?" Harry approached cautiously, positioning himself slightly behind Diana but visible to the visitors. The 3 British officials stared at him with varying expressions, Fudge with calculation, Dawlish with suspicion, and Bones with what appeared to be genuine concern. "Hello," Harry said quietly. "Mr. Potter," Fudge began in what he clearly thought was a kindly tone, "are you being held here against your will? You can tell us the truth." Harry looked at the minister as if he were slightly dim. "No. I live here now with Diana. She rescued me from my aunt and uncle." "Rescued?" Bones asked sharply. "What do you mean, Mr. Potter?" Harry glanced up at Diana, who nodded encouragingly. "They kept me in a cupboard under the stairs. They called me Freak instead of my name. Uncle Vernon hit me with his belt." Bones' expression hardened, though not at Harry. "I see. And you're happy here, with MS. Princess Diana of Themyscira," Diana supplied. "And yes, he is. I have my own room," Harry volunteered. "And proper food. And clothes that fit. And I'm learning magic with Mr. Flammel." "Flammel?" Fudge spluttered. "Nicholas Flammel is involved in this?" As Harry's magical tutor, yes, Diana confirmed, enjoying the minister's discomfort. Nicholas had mentioned that his name carried significant weight in wizarding circles. Bones was still studying Harry, her trained eye no doubt noting his healthy appearance, new clothes, and the absence of fear that would be present in a truly abducted child. "Minister," she said quietly, "I see no evidence of coercion or danger to Mr. Potter. On the contrary, he appears well cared for." "But Dumbledore," Fudge began. "Is not infallible," Bones finished firmly. "And if there are legitimate questions about his previous guardianship decisions, they should be investigated properly, not resolved through an international incident." Fudge looked torn, clearly having expected an easy retrieval mission. "Perhaps we could speak with Flamel. Get his assessment." "I can arrange that," Diana offered, sensing an opportunity to solidify their position. "Why don't you return tomorrow? Nicholas can join us and provide his professional opinion on Harry's well-being and magical development." This compromise seemed to satisfy Bones, who nodded decisively. "An excellent suggestion, Minister." Fudge reluctantly agreed, though his expression suggested he was already crafting explanations for Dumbledore. After the delegation departed, Harry looked up at Diana anxiously. "Will they take me away?" "No," Diana assured him, kneeling to his level. "They came expecting one thing and found another. You did perfectly, showing them you're happy and safe here." Harry's shoulders relaxed slightly. The lady with the monocle seemed nice. "Madame Bones." "Yes, she struck me as fair-minded." Diana made a mental note to research her further. Allies within the British ministry could prove valuable. She contacted Flamel immediately, explaining the situation. The ancient wizard agreed to attend the meeting the next day, adding dryly that he looked forward to seeing young Cornelius again. "You know him?" Diana asked. "I examined him for his NEWTS in alchemy some 40 years ago," Flamel replied with amusement. "He earned a poor, as I recall. Never did grasp the fundamental principles." The next morning, Flamel arrived early to review Harry's progress before the ministry officials returned. They were working on a particularly delicate control exercise, having Harry separate different colored sand grains using only his magic, when the alarm signaled the delegation's return. This time, Fudge arrived with Bones but without the male aura. In his place was a tall, thin man with greasy black hair and a permanently sour expression. "Princess Diana, this is Professor Severus Snape, potions master at Hogwarts," Fudge introduced him. Dumbledore suggested he might evaluate Mr. Potter's magical development as an impartial expert. One look at Snape's face told Diana he was anything but impartial. His eyes fixed on Harry with an expression of barely concealed dislike. "Severus," Flamel greeted the newcomer with cool politeness. "It's been some time." "Master Flamel," Snape replied, his sallow face betraying surprise. "I was not informed you were involved in this situation." "I've taken young Harry as an apprentice," Flamel stated simply. "His natural talents are considerable, especially now that the bindings have been removed." Snape's eyes narrowed. "Bindings? Perhaps we should all sit down," Diana suggested, ushering them into the living room where refreshments waited. Harry stayed close to her side, occasionally glancing warily at Snape. Once everyone was seated, Flamel took control of the conversation with the easy authority of his centuries. "As I was about to explain, Harry's magic was previously restricted by numerous bindings and compulsions. These were removed at Gringotts 2 weeks ago, with the assistance of Princess Diana's lasso of truth." "Preposterous," Snape muttered. "Who would bind Potter's magic?" "Albus Dumbledore," Flamel stated flatly. 44 dark spells, Severus. I've seen the Gringotts report myself." Silence fell over the room. Even Snape seemed momentarily speechless. "That's a very serious accusation," Madame Bones finally said, her monocle glinting as she leaned forward. "Do you have documentation?" "I do," Diana confirmed, producing copies of the Gringotts diagnostic results she had requested for precisely this purpose. "As you'll see, each spell is identified by magical signature. There's no question of the caster's identity." Bones accepted the papers and began reviewing them with professional thoroughness. Fudge peered over her shoulder, his expression cycling through disbelief, shock, and finally political calculation. This would cause an uproar if made public, he murmured, almost to himself. Snape's reaction was more complex. He had gone very still, his already pale face whitening further as he scanned the list of spells. His eyes flicked to Harry, then back to the parchment, something unreadable flickering in their depths. "Why?" he finally asked, the single word directed at no one in particular. "To control Harry's development," Diana explained. "To ensure he would fulfill a specific role in Dumbledore's plans regarding Voldemort." Everyone except Flamel flinched at the name. "You mentioned a prophecy, Professor Snape," Diana continued, watching his reaction carefully. "You were there when Dumbledore heard it, weren't you?" Snape's head snapped up, his eyes widening slightly before his expression shuddered. "How could you possibly? The lasso reveals truth," Diana said simply. "When used on Harry, it revealed many things Dumbledore had hidden, including the existence of a prophecy and your role in hearing it." For a moment, raw emotion, guilt, grief, anger, crossed Snape's face before he regained control. "I heard only part of it," he admitted stiffly. "And I did not know it referred to the Potter specifically." "What did it say?" Fudge demanded. Snape hesitated, then recited, "The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the 7th month dies." He stopped. "That's all I heard before being discovered." Bones had set aside the diagnostic reports and was watching the exchange with sharp interest. "And Dumbledore knew the rest?" "Yes," Snape confirmed. "He heard the complete prophecy." Harry, who had been sitting quietly beside Diana, suddenly spoke up. "Is that why my parents died? Because of a prophecy?" The simple question silenced everyone. Snape's expression spasmed with something like pain before he looked away. Flamel answered gently. "Prophecies themselves don't cause events, Harry. People's reactions to them do. Voldemort chose to believe this prophecy and act on it. That choice led to your parents' deaths. And Dumbledore chose to believe it too," Diana added. "To the point of placing magic on you to ensure you would fulfill the role he envisioned." Fudge cleared his throat. "This is all very disturbing, but it doesn't necessarily invalidate Dumbledore's guardianship." "It absolutely does," Bones interrupted sharply. "Magical binding of this nature without consent or medical necessity is a serious crime under Section 12 of the Magical Child Protection Act. Combined with the evidence of physical neglect at his Muggle relative's home." She turned to Diana. "I believe your guardianship is on solid legal ground, Princess Diana." Fudge sputtered. "But Amelia, the law is clear, Minister," Bones stated firmly. "And I, for one, am not prepared to challenge the combined authority of Gringotts, the French ministry, and Nicholas Flamel in this matter." She turned to Snape. "Professor? Your assessment of Mr. Potter's current magical condition?" Put on the spot, Snape's eyes narrowed as he studied Harry. After a moment, he withdrew his wand. "With your permission," he said stiffly to Diana, "a standard magical diagnostic spell. Non-invasive." Diana nodded, and Snape cast the spell with a graceful motion. A complex pattern of lights appeared above Harry, showing his magical core and current development. "His core is exceptionally strong," Snape admitted, a trace of surprise in his voice. "And stable, despite the recent removal of the bindings." He glanced at Flamel. "Your work?" "Harry's own resilience, primarily," Flamel replied. "I've merely provided guidance." Snape continued his assessment. "No evidence of dark magic remains in the scar. General magical health is good, though there are signs of previous nutritional deficiency." His eyes flicked briefly to Diana. "Being addressed now, obviously." "Your conclusion, Professor?" Bones prompted. Snape's jaw worked as if he were fighting some internal battle. "Finally," he said, Potter appears to be in good health and receiving appropriate magical education. I see no reason to disturb the current arrangement. Fudge looked dismayed, but Bones nodded with satisfaction. Then the British ministry has no grounds for intervention. Mr. Potter will remain with his current guardian. She turned to Diana. Though we would appreciate regular updates on his progress, if you're amenable. That seems reasonable, Diana agreed, sensing the offer was as much about maintaining positive relations as monitoring Harry. As the meeting concluded, Snape lingered while Fudge and Bones made their farewells. When the others had moved toward the door, he approached Harry with visible discomfort. Potter, he began awkwardly. Your eyes, Harry looked up at him questioningly. They're like your mother's, Snape finished, his voice barely audible. Before Harry could respond, he turned abruptly and followed the others out. After they had gone, Harry turned to Diana. He knew my mum. It seems so, Diana replied, making another mental note to investigate this connection further. Flamel, who had observed the entire interaction with the patience of centuries, finally spoke. Well, that went better than expected. Amelia Bones is an honorable woman, and she clearly recognized the legal strength of your position. And Snape? Diana asked. Can he be trusted? Severus Snape is. Flamel paused, considering his words. A complicated man with divided loyalties. But what I saw today suggests he may be reconsidering some of those loyalties in light of what he learned. Harry tugged at Diana's hand. Did we win? Diana smiled down at him. This round, yes. The British ministry won't try to take you forcibly now. But Dumbledore himself hasn't made his move yet. He will, Flamel predicted. This setback will only delay him, not deter him. Flamel's prediction proved accurate. 3 days later, as Diana and Harry were returning from his morning lesson, they found Albus Dumbledore himself waiting outside their apartment building. The old wizard was dressed in an approximation of Muggle clothing, a violently purple suit with stars embroidered on the lapels, and was receiving curious looks from passers-by. His long white beard and half-moon spectacles completed the eccentric appearance. Diana felt Harry tense beside her, his hand gripping hers tightly. It's all right, she murmured. Remember, he can't enter our home without invitation, and he can't legally take you anywhere. Harry nodded, though his face remained pale. Diana approached Dumbledore with outward calm, positioning herself slightly in front of Harry. Headmaster Dumbledore. I wondered when you would come yourself. Dumbledore smiled benignly, though his blue eyes lacked their famous twinkle. Princess Diana. And young Harry. You're looking well, my boy. Harry said nothing, pressing closer to Diana's side. Perhaps we could speak inside. Dumbledore suggested. What I have to discuss is not suitable for public ears. I'm afraid our home is warded against uninvited guests, Diana replied coolly. But there's a cafe around the corner with private seating. We can talk there. Dumbledore's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. As you wish. The cafe Diana chose was one where she was known and respected. The owner, Monsieur Laurent, had served in the resistance during World War II and understood the importance of discretion and protection. With a quick glance at the situation, he led them to a secluded alcove and promised to ensure their privacy. Once seated, Dumbledore focused on Harry. You've had quite an adventure, Harry. Everyone back in Britain has been very worried about you. I'm fine, Harry replied, his voice small but steady. Better than at the Dursleys. Ah, yes. I understand there were some difficulties with your relatives. Dumbledore sighed. Perhaps I should have checked on you more regularly. But the blood wards protecting you there were essential for your safety. You mean the wards tied to my mother's sacrifice? Harry asked, surprising both adults with his directness. Mr. Flamel says those could have been anchored anywhere my family lived, not just with people who hated me. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly. Nicholas has always had a somewhat simplified view of blood magic. The protections required your mother's blood relation, which could have been achieved without the abuse, Diana interrupted. Let's be direct, Headmaster. You left Harry with people you knew would mistreat him, bound his magic, and implanted compulsions designed to make him accept hardship without question. Why? Dumbledore's grandfatherly facade slipped momentarily, revealing a flash of the powerful wizard beneath. You cannot possibly understand the complexities of the situation, Princess. The prophecy, I know about the prophecy, Diana cut him off. At least, the part Professor Snape overheard. Is that truly enough to justify what you did to a child? Harry looked between them, his green eyes solemn. Did you know about the cupboard? He asked Dumbledore directly. Did you know they called me freak and didn't feed me properly? For the first time, Dumbledore seemed genuinely discomfort. I knew your aunt might not show you the affection she gave her own son, but, you knew, Harry concluded, his voice suddenly older than his years. And you left me there anyway. For the greater good, Harry, Dumbledore said softly. Sometimes sacrifices must be made, not by children, Diana stated firmly. Never by children. Dumbledore turned his attention fully to her, his power no longer disguised by twinkling eyes and eccentric clothing. You've interfered with matters you don't fully comprehend, Princess Diana. Harry is not simply a boy, he is crucial to the defeat of the darkest wizard of our time. The prophecy can be fulfilled without turning him into a sacrificial lamb, Diana countered. We know about the Horcruxes, Headmaster. All of them. This was a calculated bluff, they knew only that multiple Horcruxes existed, not their identities or locations, but Dumbledore's reaction confirmed its effectiveness. For a moment, genuine shock crossed his face before he regained control. Then you understand why Harry's preparation is so critical, he recovered. Voldemort will return. Harry must be ready to face him. And he will be, Diana agreed. But on his own terms, with his full magic and proper training. Not as the weapon you tried to forge. Harry, who had been following this exchange closely, suddenly asked, was I supposed to die? To defeat Voldemort? Dumbledore hesitated too long before answering. Harry, the path I envisioned was complex, the lasso revealed your plan, Diana interrupted. The Horcrux in his scar. You intended for him to sacrifice himself willingly to destroy it. And then Voldemort could be defeated, Dumbledore acknowledged, dropping all pretense. It was the only way to ensure his final destruction. No, Diana contradicted him. It was the only way you could imagine. But the Horcrux has already been removed without harming Harry, thanks to goblin magic and my lasso. Removed? For the first time, Dumbledore appeared genuinely stunned. His eyes darted to Harry's forehead, where the scar was now a faint, ordinary line. That's not possible. The soul fragment was too deeply embedded, check for yourself, Diana invited, knowing he could detect the absence of dark magic if he tried. Dumbledore drew his wand slowly. May I? Harry glanced at Diana, who nodded reassuringly. It's just a detection spell. It won't hurt you. After Harry's nod, Dumbledore cast the spell with a delicate flick of his wand. His eyes widened as he observed the results. It's truly gone, he murmured, more to himself than to them. All these years, I believed. He lowered his wand. This changes matters considerably. Yes, Diana agreed. It means Harry can be trained to face Voldemort as a prepared wizard, not a sacrifice. Dumbledore seemed to be recalculating years of plans in real time. The other Horcruxes must still be found and destroyed. We're working on that, Diana said, though in truth, their research had barely begun. I have spent decades tracking them, Dumbledore said slowly. I know what they are, if not all their locations. Diana recognized the implicit offer. And you would share this information? In exchange for a role in Harry's preparation, yes. Dumbledore's eyes fixed on Harry. I made mistakes, grievous ones, in how I handled your early years. For that, I apologize. The words seemed to cost him, but they sounded sincere. But the threat Voldemort poses is real, and my knowledge of him is unparalleled. Harry looked to Diana, clearly uncertain. We would need guarantees, Diana stated. No more magical interference. No attempt to reclaim guardianship. And full disclosure of everything you know about Voldemort and the prophecy. The complete prophecy states that either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives, Dumbledore revealed. It doesn't specify how or when this final confrontation must occur. Without the Horcrux in Harry's scar, perhaps a different approach is possible. Harry absorbed this information with remarkable composure. So I still have to face him someday. It seems likely, Dumbledore admitted. But how you face him, that has changed dramatically. Diana placed a protective hand on Harry's shoulder. We'll consider your offer of information, Headmaster. But Harry's well-being remains my priority. Dumbledore nodded slowly. I can accept those terms. And I have another piece of information that may interest you both immediately. He leaned forward. Sirius Black, Harry's godfather, is innocent of the crimes for which he was imprisoned. We know, Diana replied. Ragnarok informed us. What you may not know is that I have located Peter Pettigrew, the man truly responsible for betraying your parents, Harry. With your permission, I intend to capture him and use his testimony to secure Sirius's release. This was unexpected. You would do this? Diana asked skeptically. It serves multiple purposes, Dumbledore acknowledged candidly. Justice for an innocent man. A potential ally in our mutual goal of preparing Harry. And he hesitated, a step toward making amends for my mistakes. Harry spoke up suddenly. My godfather, what's he like? Dumbledore's expression softened genuinely for the first time. Sirius was your father's best friend. Loyal, brave, a bit reckless. He loved you very much. When you were a baby, your first word after Mama and Dada was Pafu, his nickname, Padfoot. Harry's eyes widened at this personal detail about his infancy. Why didn't you help him before? Diana asked. If you knew he was innocent. I suspected, but had no proof, Dumbledore admitted. And at the time, I believed Harry was better protected by the blood wards than he would be with Sirius. He looked regretful. Another decision I made for what I thought was the greater good. Diana studied the old wizard thoughtfully. His remorse seemed genuine, though she suspected it was more for the failure of his plans than for Harry's suffering. Still, his offer of information about the Horcruxes and help with Sirius Black could be valuable. We'll consider working with you, she finally said. On the conditions I mentioned. But Harry stays with me, under my protection. Agreed, Dumbledore conceded, recognizing the strength of her position. I would like to begin by sharing what I know of the remaining Horcruxes. Perhaps we could meet again tomorrow. I'll bring the relevant research. They set a time for the following day, this time at Flamel's home where the ancient alchemist could participate and ensure Dumbledore adhered to their agreement. As Dumbledore rose to leave, Harry suddenly asked, Did you ever care about me? Or was I just part of your plan? The question hung in the air between them. Dumbledore looked genuinely pained. I convinced myself that the two weren't mutually exclusive, he finally said. That my fondness for you and my plans for defeating Voldemort could coexist. I was wrong. He bowed slightly to Harry. I hope, in time, you might forgive an old man's terrible mistake. With that, he departed, leaving Harry looking thoughtful and Diana with mixed feelings about this unexpected turn of events. What do you think? She asked Harry as they walked home. Can we trust him to help? Harry considered this with surprising maturity. I think he'll help because he wants to beat Voldemort. And maybe because he feels bad about what he did. He looked up at Diana. But I trust you more. Diana squeezed his hand. Then we'll accept his help cautiously. And we'll make sure I'm present whenever you interact with him. Do you think my godfather will like me? Harry asked, revealing the more age-appropriate concern beneath his composure. He'll love you, Diana assured him. How could he not? The next day's meeting with Dumbledore proved productive, if tense. In Flamel's home, with the ancient alchemist mediating, Dumbledore revealed what he knew about Voldemort's Horcruxes: a diary, a ring, a locket, a cup, and potentially something belonging to Ravenclaw. With the soul fragment from Harry's scar contained and neutralized, we have identified 6 Horcruxes in total, Dumbledore explained. I have confirmed the ring's location and suspect I know where the locket may be found. You've known about these for years, Flamel observed, his tone mildly accusatory. Yet you've made little progress in retrieving them. Dumbledore spread his hands. I believed we had time. With Harry safely under the blood wards, growing up according to your plan, Diana corrected. Yes, Dumbledore acknowledged. But now circumstances have changed. We must accelerate our efforts. They formulated a strategy for locating and destroying the Horcruxes, with Dumbledore agreeing to focus on the ring and locket while Flamel researched methods for destroying the soul fragments once contained. And what of Sirius Black? Diana asked as the Horcrux discussion concluded. I have located Pettigrew, Dumbledore confirmed. He's been hiding for years as a family pet, a rat, belonging to the Weasley family. Arthur Weasley works at the Ministry and is a trusted ally. I intend to retrieve Pettigrew tomorrow and turn him over to Amelia Bones directly. How long until Sirius could be released? Diana pressed. With Pettigrew alive and Veritaserum testimony, perhaps a week. The Ministry will want to keep the process quiet to minimize embarrassment over their mistake. Harry, who had been quietly observing the adults' discussion, finally spoke up. Will he be okay? After being in wizard prison for so long? Dumbledore's expression turned grave. Azkaban is not a kind place, Harry. Sirius will need time and care to recover. But he's remarkably strong-willed. I believe with proper support, he can heal. He can come stay with us, Harry suggested, looking to Diana for confirmation. Of course, Diana agreed without hesitation. Once he's ready. The meeting continued with discussions of Harry's magical education, with Flamel outlining the progress they'd made and the approach they were taking. His control has improved remarkably, Flamel reported. Soon we can begin actual spell work, though I recommend delaying wand purchase until he's 7. His natural affinity for wandless magic is extraordinary, introducing a wand too early might actually limit his development. Dumbledore nodded. A wise approach. Few wizards ever achieve true wandless skill precisely because they become dependent on their wands too early. As promised, Dumbledore shared the complete prophecy. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the 7th month dies, and the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, but he will have power the Dark Lord knows not, and either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord will be born as the 7th month dies. The power he knows not, Diana mused. That could be many things. Indeed, Dumbledore agreed. I once believed it referred to love, Harry's capacity to love despite hardship. But perhaps it's something else entirely. His connection to Amazonian magic through you, perhaps. Or simply the power of choice, Flamel suggested. The power to choose a different path than the one others have laid out for him. Harry listened to this discussion of his fate with remarkable composure, though Diana could sense his tension. She placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Whatever this power is, she said firmly, Harry will discover it on his own terms. Not because we've shaped him to fit our interpretation of a prophecy. Dumbledore inclined his head, accepting the rebuke. A fair point, Princess. And perhaps the wiser approach. When Dumbledore departed, promising to return with news of Pettigrew's capture, Flamel turned to Diana with a knowing look. He's sincere in his desire to atone, the alchemist observed. Though old habits die hard. I noticed, Diana agreed. He still speaks of Harry as a tool against Voldemort, just a better prepared one. Do you trust him? Harry asked them both. Flamel stroked his beard thoughtfully. To defeat Voldemort? Yes. To always prioritize your well-being over his strategic goals? No. Then we'll accept his help but maintain our independence, Diana decided. And keep your godfather's best interests in mind as well. He may need protection from Dumbledore's influence as much as you do. 3 days later, the Daily Prophet arrived by owl with a banner headline, Peter Pettigrew alive, Sirius Black innocent ministry in turmoil as supposed hero revealed as Death Eater. The article detailed how Pettigrew had been discovered hiding as a pet rat, his confession under Veritasrum to betraying the Potters and framing Sirius, and the ministry's embarrassment over imprisoning an innocent man for 5 years. A smaller headline near the bottom caught Diana's attention. Boy who lived safe under new guardianship ministry confirms welfare concerns at previous placement. Amélie Delacour visited that afternoon, bringing more detailed information. Black is receiving treatment at a private healing facility in Switzerland, she reported. The French ministry has granted him temporary asylum to recover away from British media attention. His legal exoneration is complete, with full restoration of rights and substantial compensation. When can Harry meet him? Diana asked. The healers suggest another week or 2 of intensive treatment first, Amélie advised. His physical condition is poor, and the psychological effects of Azkaban are significant. But he asks about Harry constantly, it seems to be his primary motivation for recovery. Harry, who had been listening from his place at the table where he was practicing magical writing with a quill, looked up hopefully. He really wants to meet me. Very much, Amélie confirmed with a warm smile. He has asked for pictures of you. Would you like to send him some? Perhaps with a letter? Harry nodded eagerly. Can I, Diana? Of course. Diana had taken several photos of Harry in recent weeks, playing in the park, working with Flamel, exploring Paris, documenting his transition from the neglected child of Privet Drive to the healthier, happier boy he was becoming. That evening, Harry composed his first letter to his godfather with Diana's help, carefully explaining his rescue by Wonder Woman, which made Diana smile, his new home in Paris, and his magical lessons with Mr. Flamel who is really old but really nice. As Harry signed his name with painstaking care, Diana felt a profound sense of satisfaction. In just a few weeks, they had shattered Dumbledore's constraints, secured legal recognition for their new family, begun Harry's magical education, and set in motion the release of his godfather. Challenges remained, of course. Voldemort's Horcruxes needed to be found and destroyed. Harry still faced a prophecy that tied him to a dark wizard's fate. And Dumbledore, though temporarily allied with them, remained a potential concern with his own agenda. But for now, watching Harry carefully fold his letter to Sirius and tuck it into an envelope, Diana was content. The chains that had bound Harry, both magical and emotional, were breaking, one by one. In their place, something new and stronger was forming, a chosen family, built on trust rather than manipulation, love rather than control. Do you think he'll write back? Harry asked, looking up from addressing the envelope. I'm certain of it, Diana assured him. This is just the beginning of your story together. Harry smiled, a genuine, unguarded expression that still appeared too rarely on his face. I like this beginning much better than the last one. Diana couldn't have agreed more. 2 weeks later, Diana and Harry waited in a private room at the Magical Healing Center of Geneva. Harry fidgeted nervously, alternately smoothing his shirt and running his hand through his perpetually messy hair. What if he doesn't like me, he whispered anxiously to Diana. What if I'm not what he remembers? He'll love you, Diana assured him. His letters have made that clear. Indeed, Sirius had responded to Harry's first letter with a 12-page reply, filled with stories about Harry's parents, memories of Harry as a baby, and promises of all they would do together once he was well enough. 3 more letters had followed, each revealing a man desperate to reconnect with his godson. The door opened, and a healer entered first. He's very excited but still fragile, she cautioned them quietly. Try not to be alarmed by his appearance, he's much improved, but Azkaban takes a terrible toll. Diana nodded understanding, keeping a reassuring hand on Harry's shoulder. And then Sirius Black entered the room. He was tall but gaunt, his handsome face hollowed by years of suffering. His black hair fell to his shoulders, and though clean and neatly trimmed now, it couldn't completely disguise the effects of long neglect. But his gray eyes were clear and alert, lighting up with naked emotion as they fell on Harry. "Harry," he breathed, his voice rough with feeling. Harry stared up at him, momentarily speechless. Then, with a small sound that was half laugh, half sob, he launched himself across the room. Sirius knelt to catch him, enfolding Harry in a careful embrace as if he might break. Over Harry's shoulder, his eyes met Diana's, filled with a gratitude so profound it needed no words. "You're so big," Sirius marveled, drawing back to look at Harry properly. "Last time I saw you, you were barely toddling around." "I'm 5 now," Harry informed him seriously. "Nearly 6. So you are." Sirius smiled, his gaunt face transformed. "You look like your dad, but I have my mum's eyes," Harry finished. "People keep telling me that." Sirius laughed, a sound that seemed to surprise even him. "They're right." He looked up at Diana. "And you must be the famous Wonder Woman who rescued my godson when I couldn't." Diana stepped forward, extending her hand. "Diana of Themyscira. It's good to meet you, Sirius." He rose to shake her hand, revealing how thin he still was despite the healer's efforts. "I can never repay what you've done for Harry," he said simply. "Thank you." "No repayment is necessary," Diana assured him. "Harry has brought as much to my life as I have to his." They sat together, Harry eagerly showing Sirius his progress with magic. A small flame conjured briefly in his palm, a feather levitated with a gesture. Sirius watched with undisguised pride and growing amazement. "Wandless at 5? That's extraordinary, Harry. Your dad would be strutting around like a peacock if he could see you now." His expression softened. "And your mum would be reminding him that you got your magical talent from her side too." Harry soaked up these details about his parents like a sponge, asking countless questions that Sirius answered with evident pleasure despite the pain some memories clearly caused him. Eventually, the healer returned, signaling that Sirius needed rest. Before they parted, Diana addressed the question that had been waiting since they arrived. "The healers say you'll be released next week. We have room for you in Paris, if you'd like to stay with us while you continue recovering." Sirius looked surprised, then deeply moved. "You'd be willing to have me? Even though you've only just met me?" "You're Harry's family," Diana said simply. "That makes you my family too. And I have a really big room," Harry added eagerly. "We can put another bed in there if you want." Sirius's eyes glistened suspiciously. "I would be honored," he managed. "Thank you." As they prepared to leave, Sirius pulled Diana aside briefly while Harry chatted with the healer about magical healing methods. "Dumbledore has been in contact," Sirius said quietly. "He wants me to help with something called a Horcrux hunt once I'm recovered." "We're aware," Diana replied. "We have a complex working relationship with Dumbledore at present." Sirius's expression hardened slightly. Harry mentioned in his letters about bindings and spells. "Dumbledore's work?" "Yes. All removed now." "I should have been there," Sirius said, self-recrimination clear in his voice. "I should have protected him instead of going after Peter." "You can protect him now," Diana assured him. "He needs people who love him for himself, not for his role in a prophecy or a war." Sirius nodded firmly. "On that, we are completely aligned, Princess." His grey eyes were serious. "James and Lily made me his godfather to love and protect him, not to turn him into a weapon. I failed him once. Never again." Diana recognized in Sirius a fierce protectiveness that matched her own. Despite his weakened state, here was a powerful ally in ensuring Harry's well-being remained paramount. "Then welcome to our family, Sirius Black," she said, extending her hand once more. "I think we're going to work very well together." His answering smile held the first hint of the charming, confident man he must have been before Azkaban. "I think we are, Princess. I think we are." 1 week later, Sirius moved into Diana's apartment, taking a room adjacent to Harry's rather than sharing as Harry had initially suggested. "You need your own space, pup," he explained. "And trust me, you don't want to listen to my nightmares." Those nightmares were frequent at first. Diana often heard him pacing in the early hours, or found him in the kitchen at dawn, hands wrapped around a cup of tea, eyes haunted. But as days passed into weeks, the episodes grew less frequent. Regular meals, magical healing, and most of all, Harry's presence worked wonders on Sirius's recovery. Harry blossomed with Sirius in their home. The man's irreverent humor and boundless affection added a new dimension to Harry's life. While Diana provided stability and protection, Sirius brought laughter and a connection to Harry's parents that no one else could offer. Sirius also brought new perspectives on Harry's magical education. "He's doing brilliantly with wandless magic," he observed after watching one of Harry's lessons with Flammel. "But there's more to being a wizard than spell work. Magical culture, history, even politics, he'll need to understand it all, especially given who he is." "Who he is shouldn't define his education," Diana countered. "No, but it will define how others respond to him," Sirius pointed out. "Like it or not, he's Harry Potter, the boy who lived, heir to House Potter. He'll face expectations and prejudices based on those facts alone." It was a valid point. Diana had been focused on breaking Dumbledore's control and developing Harry's magical abilities. The complexities of wizarding society were something she had yet to fully address. "What do you suggest?" "Let me handle that part of his education," Sirius proposed. "I grew up in one of Britain's oldest magical families, for better and worse. I can teach him what he needs to navigate that world without being controlled by it." This balanced approach proved effective. Mornings remained dedicated to magical control with Flammel, while afternoons now included what Sirius called Wizarding Wisdom sessions, engaging lessons on magical history, traditions, and culture that often included stories about Harry's parents. Diana contributed her own knowledge as well, introducing Harry to Amazon history and principles. The three of them developed a remarkably complementary approach to Harry's education, Flammel providing technical magical training, Sirius offering wizarding cultural context, and Diana teaching physical disciplines and ethical frameworks drawn from her Amazon upbringing. Dumbledore visited periodically to update them on the Horcrux hunt. He had successfully retrieved and destroyed Marvolo Gaunt's ring, though not without injury. His right hand was blackened and withered from a curse he'd failed to completely neutralize. "A momentary lapse in caution," he explained, though the pain in his eyes suggested the damage was more serious than he admitted. "But the Horcrux is destroyed. The locket, however, has proven more elusive." "You're certain it's at Grimmauld Place?" Sirius asked. The ancestral black home had been abandoned since his mother's death during his imprisonment. "No, but it's our best lead," Dumbledore replied. "According to my research, Voldemort entrusted it to the Black's house elf, who failed to destroy it as ordered." Sirius grimaced. "Creature. Nasty piece of work, completely devoted to my mother's pure-blood mania. But he'd still be bound to me as head of House Black. Could you summon him?" Diana suggested. "I'd rather not bring him here," Sirius said with distaste. "Our home has a far better atmosphere without his muttering about blood traitors and filth." "Then perhaps we should visit Grimmauld Place," Diana proposed. "Search for the locket ourselves." The idea of returning to his childhood home clearly disturbed Sirius, but he nodded reluctantly. "For the Horcrux hunt, yes. But not with Harry." "I want to come," Harry protested. He had been following the discussion from his place at Diana's side. "Not this time, pup," Sirius said firmly. "That house, it's not a good place. Dark magic, nasty protections, and years of neglect. No place for a child. But, Sirius is right, Diana agreed. This is one adventure you'll need to sit out. Perhaps you can stay with Flamel while we're gone. Harry was clearly disappointed but didn't argue further. His trust in both his guardians had grown strong enough that he accepted their judgment, even when it frustrated him. The visit to Grimmauld Place was arranged for the following weekend, with Flamel agreeing to host Harry for the day. Dumbledore would meet them there to help navigate the house's dark magical protections. It should be a simple retrieval mission, Dumbledore assured them. In and out within hours. Sirius laughed darkly. Nothing about that house is simple, Headmaster. But we'll see. The night before their departure, Diana found Harry sitting on his bedroom balcony, looking out at the Paris skyline. She joined him, noting how his green eyes reflected the city lights. Still disappointed about tomorrow, she asked gently. Harry shrugged. A little. But I understand. He glanced at her. Sirius gets really quiet when he talks about his family's house. It must be pretty awful. Some childhood homes are, Diana agreed. But you don't have to worry about that anymore. Your home is here now, with people who love you. Harry was silent for a moment, then said, I keep thinking about the prophecy. About having to face Voldemort someday. Diana put her arm around his shoulders. That day is far away, Harry. And when it comes, you won't face him alone or unprepared. I'm not scared exactly, Harry said thoughtfully. Just. I wish I knew what the power he knows not actually is. Perhaps it's not one specific power, Diana suggested. Perhaps it's the sum of who you are and who you'll become, shaped by love and choice rather than manipulation and control. Harry considered this, then nodded. I like that better than thinking it's some special spell I have to learn. Diana smiled. So do I. Diana? When you and Sirius go tomorrow, be careful, okay? Always, she promised, touched by his concern. We'll be back before you know it. She couldn't have known then how wrong she would be. Grimmauld Place emerged from behind concealing magic as Sirius reluctantly provided the address to Diana. The building was as grim as its name suggested, a towering, narrow townhouse with windows like vacant eyes and a door adorned with a serpent knocker. Dumbledore waited for them at the corner, his injured hand concealed within a glove. Sirius. Princess. Thank you for coming. Sirius approached his family home with visible dread. Let's get this over with. He tapped the door with his wand, causing a series of metallic clicks as locks disengaged. As head of the House of Black, I should still have access, but be prepared for resistance. My mother was thorough about her protections. The door swung open with an ominous creak, revealing a dark hallway choked with dust and cobwebs. The smell of decay and neglect washed over them as they entered. Charming place, Diana observed dryly. Very welcoming. Wait until you meet the decor, Sirius muttered. Mother had a fondness for mounted house elf heads. They moved cautiously through the entrance hall, Dumbledore illuminating the space with his wand. Sirius walked like a man entering a prison cell, his shoulders tight, eyes darting to shadowed corners as if expecting attacks. Creature, he finally called. Show yourself. A crack announced the arrival of the most decrepit house elf Diana had ever seen, stooped, ancient, with bloodshot eyes and a filthy pillowcase for clothing. The creature stared at Sirius with undisguised loathing. Master has returned, he croaked. Breaking his mother's heart, bringing filth into the noble House of Black. That's enough, Sirius snapped. Creature, I order you to tell us if you know anything about a locket, a heavy gold locket with an S on it, brought here by Regulus. At the mention of Regulus, Creature's entire demeanor changed. He froze, then began to tremble violently. Master Regulus, he whispered. Master knows about Master Regulus's locket? Sirius exchanged surprised glances with Dumbledore. What about Regulus's locket, Creature. Master Regulus told Creature to destroy it, the elf moaned, rocking back and forth. But Creature tried, oh how Creature tried. Nothing worked. Creature failed Master Regulus's last order. Diana knelt to the elf's level, ignoring his flinch at her proximity. Creature, what happened to Regulus? Why did he want the locket destroyed? Something in her gentle tone reached through the elf's distress. Between sobs and self-recriminations, Creature told a shocking story, how Voldemort had borrowed Creature for a mission, used him to test the defenses around the locket Horcrux, and left him to die. How Regulus, learning what had happened, had turned against Voldemort. How he had sacrificed himself to retrieve the locket, ordering Creature to destroy it in his final moments. Master Regulus drank the poison, Creature wailed. The dead ones took him into the water. He ordered Creature to leave with the locket, to destroy it. But Creature couldn't. Creature tried everything. Sirius had gone pale. My brother died defying Voldemort, he whispered, clearly struggling to reconcile this with his memories of his Death Eater brother. Where is the locket now, Creature? Dumbledore asked urgently. Creature hesitated, then shuffled to a nearby cabinet. From a hidden compartment, he retrieved a heavy gold locket with an ornate S inlaid with emeralds, Salazar Slytherin's mark. Here, the elf said, holding it as if it pained him. Creature keeps it safe, tries every day to destroy it for Master Regulus. Diana could sense the malevolence emanating from the locket even before touching it. Dark magic pulsed within it like a heartbeat, reminiscent of the energy that had surrounded Harry's scar. Another Horcrux, Dumbledore confirmed. Well done, Creature. You've helped fulfill your master's final wish. Sirius was still processing his brother's unexpected heroism. Reg went against Voldemort in the end, he murmured. All these years, I thought. Diana placed a hand on his shoulder, offering silent support as he reframed his understanding of a brother he'd written off as lost to darkness. We should destroy it immediately, Dumbledore suggested. I have the means. He reached into his robes and withdrew a gleaming silver sword with rubies embedded in its hilt. The sword of Gryffindor, imbued with basilisk venom from a previous encounter. One of the few substances capable of destroying a Horcrux. They moved to the kitchen, where a heavy wooden table provided a suitable surface. Creature watched with anxious anticipation as Dumbledore placed the locket in the center of the table. It may fight back, he warned. Be prepared. Sirius drew his wand. Should we open it first? It's likely protected. Yes, Dumbledore agreed. As a Parselmouth, Harry could command it to open, but in his absence. He studied the locket thoughtfully. Creature, did Regulus speak to it? Master Regulus hissed at it, the elf confirmed. Like a snake. Diana remembered something from her research into magical languages. Parseltongue can sometimes be imitated, though not understood, by non-Parselmouths. Do you know what sound Regulus made, Creature? The elf demonstrated, a breathy hiss that made the locket quiver slightly. Again, more clearly, Dumbledore encouraged. Creature repeated the sound with greater confidence. The locket's catch released with an audible click. What happened next was chaos. The locket burst open, and a swirling mass of darkness erupted from within it. Red eyes formed in the black mist, and a voice spoke, cold, high, and terrible. Sirius Black, it hissed. Failed brother, failed friend. You let James and Lily die. You abandoned Harry for revenge. Even now, you're a broken shell of a man, unfit to care for a child. The mist shifted, showing images of Harry turning away from Sirius in disgust, of James and Lily condemning him from beyond death. Sirius staggered back, his face contorted with anguish. No, lies, Diana said firmly, gripping his arm. It's using your fears against you. Dumbledore raised the sword, but the mist swirled toward him next. Albus Dumbledore, it mocked. The greatest wizard of his age, they say. But I know your secrets, old man. Grindelwald. Ariana. All your failures and weaknesses. The mist showed Dumbledore something that made him falter, the sword wavering in his grip. His injured hand trembled violently. Diana acted instantly, seizing the sword from Dumbledore's weakened grasp. The mist turned to her next, but she was already in motion, driving the blade down with all her Amazon strength. Diana of Themyscira, the voice began. Eternal outsider, never truly belonging, the sword pierced the locket with a thunderous impact that shook the table. The mist screamed, a high, inhuman sound of rage and pain that made the windows rattle. Then it imploded, sucked back into the locket in a violent rush before dissipating entirely. Silence fell. The locket lay split in two, smoking slightly where the blade had struck. Well done, Dumbledore said quietly, composing himself. That makes 2 Horcruxes destroyed. Sirius was still pale, but recovering his composure. That thing, it knew exactly what to say. Horcruxes defend themselves by attacking the mind and heart, Dumbledore explained. They find your deepest fears and insecurities and use them against you. He nodded respectfully to Diana. You showed remarkable resistance. Diana returned the sword. I've faced gods who use similar tactics. Truth is the best defense against such manipulation. Creature approached the destroyed locket with something like reverence. Master Regulus's order is fulfilled, he whispered, tears rolling down his wrinkled face. Creature did not fail. Sirius looked at his family's elf with new understanding. No, Creature, you didn't fail. You kept it safe until it could be destroyed. Regulus would be proud. The elf stared at Sirius in shock at this unexpected praise. Something shifted in his demeanor, not warmth exactly, but a lessening of hostility. Will Master be staying at the noble house now? He asked tentatively. Sirius shook his head. No, Creature. My home is in Paris now, with Harry and Diana. He hesitated, then added, but I'll be returning from time to time. This house needs attention. And perhaps you could help me sort through Regulus's things. I'd like to know more about my brother's final days. Creature bowed, a gesture devoid of his earlier sarcasm. Creature would be honored to share Master Regulus's bravery with Master Sirius. With the locket destroyed, they prepared to leave. Sirius took a final look around the grim kitchen, his expression complex. I never thought I'd be back here, he admitted to Diana as they headed for the door. Never wanted to be. But I'm glad I came. For the Horcrux, and, for Regulus. Your brother found his courage in the end, Diana observed. That's a worthy legacy. Yes, Sirius agreed quietly. More than I gave him credit for. As they stepped outside, Dumbledore paused on the doorstep. 3 Horcruxes remain, the cup, the diary, and something of Ravenclaw's. I have leads on the cup through an old house elf who served the Malfoys. The diary is rumored to be in Lucius Malfoy's possession, though reaching it will be challenging. And the Ravenclaw item? Diana asked. Still a mystery, Dumbledore admitted. But I'm pursuing several possibilities. They made arrangements to meet again the following week to plan their approach to the remaining Horcruxes. As they prepared to part ways, Sirius suddenly frowned, looking at his watch. We should have been back hours ago, he realized. Harry will be worried. Flamel will have kept him occupied, Diana reassured him. But yes, we should return quickly. They apparat to a point near Flamel's home, guided by Sirius's magic. As they approached the ancient alchemist's door, Diana sensed immediately that something was wrong. The magical protections around the building were disturbed, fluctuating erratically. Sirius noticed too, drawing his wand. Something's happened. They found Flamel in his workshop, hastily brewing a complex potion while magical instruments around him gave off alarming readings. The alchemist looked up as they entered, his face grave. Thank the stars you're back, he said without preamble. We have a situation. Where's Harry? Diana demanded, instantly alert. Taken, Flamel replied grimly. Death Eaters. 4 of them broke through my wards using dark magic I haven't seen in centuries. They specifically targeted Harry. Diana felt as if the floor had dropped from beneath her. When? How? 2 hours ago. I fought them. 2 won't be troubling anyone again, but Bellatrix Lestrange and Antonin Dolohov escaped with Harry. Flamel gestured to a magical map on his workbench where a glowing green dot pulsed. I placed a tracking charm on Harry when they first arrived. He's being held at Malfoy Manor in Wiltshire, England. Sirius had gone deathly pale. Bellatrix has him. My cousin is a sadistic madwoman. And Dolohov. We need to move now, Diana stated, her voice hard as steel. Before they can harm him or move him elsewhere. It's a trap, Flamel warned. They left this. He handed Diana a note written in a wild, looping script, bring the prophecy to Malfoy Manor by midnight, or the boy dies screaming. Come alone, Dumbledore, or don't bother coming at all. The Dark Lord awaits. Voldemort, Diana breathed. He's back already. Not fully, I suspect, Flamel replied. But his followers are clearly acting on his instructions. They know about the prophecy and want the full text. We need to contact Dumbledore, Sirius insisted, already moving toward the fireplace. No, Diana countered. This is exactly what they expect. They want Dumbledore there, alone, to negotiate. We need a different approach. Her mind was already racing, evaluating options, formulating a plan. In all her years of battle, she had learned that the unexpected path often led to victory. Sirius, contact Amélie Delacour. We need the French Aurors ready but not visible. Flamel, I need everything you know about Malfoy Manor's defenses. She checked her weapons, lasso secure at her hip, sword and shield shrunk and concealed in her clothing. I'm going in first, alone as requested. Diana, you can't, Sirius began. Not as Diana Prince, she clarified, her eyes flashing. As Wonder Woman. They expect Dumbledore, old and injured. They'll get an Amazon warrior instead. For the first time since they'd met him, Flamel smiled with genuine anticipation. Oh, I would very much like to see their faces when they realize what they've done. He moved to a cabinet and retrieved several potions. Take these. Healing, strength enhancement, and an antidote to common dark curses. You may need them all. As they prepared, Diana's focus narrowed to a single purpose, retrieve Harry safely. In the weeks since she'd found him at Privet Drive, he had become more than just a child she'd rescued, he was family. Her family. And Amazons protected their family with all the power they possessed. Sirius returned from contacting Amélie. French Aurors will be on standby at the International Apparition Point nearest Malfoy Manor. They can be there in minutes once we signal. His face was set with determination. I'm coming with you. Not initially, Diana replied. They'll be watching for accomplices. I'll go in first, locate Harry, then signal when backup is needed. She gripped his shoulder. I need you coordinating with the Aurors, ready to move the moment I signal. Harry will need you when we get him out. Sirius clearly wanted to argue but recognized the logic. All right. But the moment you find him, you'll know, Diana promised. She turned to Flamel. The Manor's defenses. Old magic, blood-based wards keyed to the Malfoy line, Flamel explained, pulling out an architectural diagram. Main entrance here, likely heavily guarded. These points show weaknesses where newer additions meet the original structure. Anti-apparition wards extend to here. He traced a boundary. Dungeons below, accessible through here and here. Diana studied the diagram, committing it to memory. How much time do we have? 3 hours until their midnight deadline, Sirius answered grimly. Then we move now. Diana stepped behind a screen and changed into her armor, emerging as Wonder Woman. For Harry. Sirius stared at her transformation. Merlin's beard. Harry wasn't exaggerating about you being Wonder Woman. He never does, Diana replied with a grim smile. Now, let's bring our boy home. Chapter 3, A new path. Malfoy Manor loomed against the night sky like a dormant beast, its Gothic spires piercing the low-hanging clouds. Diana approached on foot, having apparat with Sirius to the edge of the property before continuing alone. The mansion's grounds stretched before her, deceptively peaceful, manicured gardens, albino peacocks strutting between immaculate hedges, fountains playing in the moonlight. But Diana's senses detected the layers of dark magic saturating the air, wards, traps, and alarms designed to keep intruders out and prisoners in. She felt them like spider webs against her skin as she moved swiftly through the shadows. "I'm coming, Harry," she whispered, her hand instinctively touching the lasso at her hip. The communication charm Flammel had provided buzzed gently against her wrist. "Diana, I've got the French Aurors in position," came Sirius's voice, tense with controlled fear. "Dumbledore's been notified but hasn't responded." "How close are you?" "Approaching the East Wing," Diana murmured. "The wards are powerful but focused on wizarding magic. They don't recognize Amazon magic as a threat." "Classic pure-blood arrogance," Sirius replied. "They never consider anything outside their experience." "Do you sense Harry?" Diana paused, closing her eyes to extend her awareness. After weeks in Harry's company, she could recognize his magical signature, bright, resilient, with that distinctive emerald glow. "Not yet, but I'm still outside the main structure." She reached a wall with an ornate stained-glass window depicting serpents twining around a family crest. According to Flammel's intelligence, this part of the manor housed the family's private quarters, less heavily warded than the formal areas where visitors were received. Diana leapt upward, 20 feet straight up, landing silently on a narrow ledge. She pressed her ear to the window, enhanced hearing picking up voices from within. "Told you to keep him sedated, Narcissa." A woman's voice, harsh and imperious with an edge of madness. "The brat nearly escaped when Dolahov's binding spell weakened." "He's just a child, Bella." A softer female voice, concerned. "That potion is meant for adults. It could harm him permanently. The Dark Lord cares only that he lives until Dumbledore arrives. After that." A cruel laugh. "Well, the boy's comfort won't matter much." Diana's jaw tightened. Bellatrix Lestrange and Narcissa Malfoy. Harry was definitely inside, and in immediate danger. "Diana," Sirius whispered through the charm. "I can feel you getting angry from here. Remember the plan. Locate first, then extract." "I know," she replied, though every instinct screamed at her to crash through the window immediately. But Harry's safety depended on precision, not just power. Diana moved along the ledge until she found a window with less magical protection, a bathroom, according to the blueprint Flammel had provided. Using the edge of her shield, she carefully cut a circle in the glass large enough to reach through and unlock the window from inside. She slipped into the opulent bathroom, its marble surfaces gleaming in the dim light. The door leading to the hallway was ajar, voices drifting from further within the house. "Arriving within the hour. Lucius will escort him to the drawing room." Narcissa again, her voice growing closer. Diana concealed herself behind a heavy curtain as footsteps approached. The bathroom door opened fully, and someone entered, closing the door behind them with a soft click. A moment of silence, then a choked sob. Diana peered carefully around the curtain to see Narcissa Malfoy leaning against the sink, her composed facade crumbling as she stared at her reflection. "What have we become?" the blonde woman whispered to herself, unaware she was not alone. "Torturing children for a master who isn't even fully returned." Diana weighed her options. Narcissa clearly had reservations about harming Harry, which made her potentially useful. Stepping from behind the curtain, Diana moved with Amazon speed, one hand covering Narcissa's mouth before she could scream, the other securing her wand arm. "Not a sound," Diana whispered, meeting the woman's terrified eyes in the mirror. "I don't wish to hurt you, but I will if necessary. Nod if you understand." Narcissa nodded, trembling. Diana could feel her racing pulse. "I'm here for Harry Potter. Tell me where he is, exactly, and what condition he's in." Diana removed her hand from Narcissa's mouth but kept a firm grip on her wand arm. "How did you get past the wards?" Narcissa gasped. "That's not an answer to my question," Diana replied, allowing a hint of her true strength to show in her grip. Narcissa swallowed hard. "He's in the cellar." Bellatrix insisted, "She doesn't trust Draco not to speak to him. He's been given a sedative potion, but he was fighting it when I checked an hour ago." "How many guards?" "Just Dolohov, outside the cellar door. Everyone else is preparing for Dumbledore's arrival." Narcissa's eyes darted to Diana's armor, visible beneath her cloak. "You're not with the Ministry. Who are you?" Diana ignored the question. "Is Harry injured?" Narcissa hesitated. "Bellatrix, she used the Cruciatus briefly when he first arrived. To ensure Dumbledore's cooperation. I gave him a pain potion afterward." Something like shame crossed her aristocratic features. "He's just a child. The same age as my Draco." Diana's grip tightened involuntarily, making Narcissa wince. "The Cruciatus curse. On a 5-year-old child?" "Please," Narcissa whispered. "My son is in the house." "Whatever you plan to do, I'm not here for your son," Diana stated coldly. "But Bellatrix and anyone else who harmed Harry will answer for it." She released Narcissa but kept her wand. "You're going to help me reach the cellar without raising the alarm. If the Dark Lord discovers I helped you, if you don't help me," Diana interrupted, "I will tear this manor apart stone by stone to find Harry." "How safe will your son be then?" Narcissa recognized the truth in Diana's eyes. This was no idle threat. "The servants' stairway," she said after a moment. "It leads directly to the cellar level. Fewer portraits to report our movements. Lead the way." Diana gestured to the door. "And understand this, if you attempt to warn anyone, I will know immediately." Narcissa nodded shakily and opened the bathroom door, checking the hallway before beckoning Diana to follow. They moved silently through the manor's opulent corridors, avoiding the main areas where voices indicated Death Eaters were gathering. The servants' stairway was narrow and plain compared to the rest of the house, spiraling downward into increasing darkness. Diana's enhanced vision had no trouble navigating, but Narcissa stumbled once, caught quickly by Diana's steady hand. "The cellar entrance is just ahead," Narcissa whispered as they reached the bottom. "Dolohov will be guarding it." "Wait here," Diana ordered, peering around the corner to see a sallow-faced wizard leaning against the wall beside a heavy wooden door, twirling his wand idly between his fingers. She recognized him from the files Amelie had provided, Antonin Dolohov, responsible for multiple murders during Voldemort's first rise. Diana touched her lasso, considering her options. Speed and silence were essential. She removed a small object from her belt, one of the potions Flammel had provided, designed to create a momentary distraction. She tossed it down the opposite corridor where it shattered with a bright flash and puff of smoke. Dolohov straightened immediately, wand raised as he moved to investigate. The moment his back turned, Diana struck, a single precise blow to the back of his head that dropped him unconscious before he could make a sound. She dragged his limp form into the shadows, binding him with enchanted rope from her belt, then removed the keys from his pocket. The cellar door opened with a soft creak, revealing a dimly lit space with rough stone walls and floor. And there, curled on a thin pallet in the corner, was Harry. Diana crossed the room in 3 strides, kneeling beside his small form. "Harry," she called softly, touching his face. Harry stirred, his eyes struggling to focus through whatever potion they'd forced into him. "Diana?" He mumbled, disbelief and hope warring in his voice. "Real or dream?" "Real, little one. I'm here." She gathered him carefully into her arms, checking him for injuries. His body occasionally trembled with aftereffects of the cruciatus, but he seemed otherwise physically intact. "I'm taking you home." "Knew you'd come," Harry slurred, his head lolling against her shoulder. "Told the scary lady. Wonder Woman would find me." Despite the gravity of their situation, Diana felt a surge of fierce pride. Even drugged and in pain, Harry had maintained his courage. She carried him back to where Narcissa waited, the woman's eyes widening at the sight of the unconscious Dolohov. "You didn't kill him," she observed with surprise. "I'm not here to kill," Diana replied. "Unless forced to." She shifted Harry in her arms. "Is there a direct way out from here?" Narcissa nodded. "The wine cellar connects to a delivery entrance. It's warded, but as a Malfoy, I can open it without triggering alarms." "Then do it." As they moved toward the wine cellar, Harry stirred again, his eyes finding Narcissa. "Mrs. Malfoy," he mumbled. "Your son has your eyes." Narcissa looked startled. "You spoke with Draco?" "Through the vent," Harry confirmed drowsily. "He brought me water when the scary lady left. Said it wasn't right, what they were doing." Something like maternal pride flickered across Narcissa's face before she quickly concealed it. "This way," she said, leading them through racks of dusty bottles to a simple wooden door. "This leads to the delivery yard. From there, you can reach the edge of the anti-apparition wards in about 200 yards. Diana activated her communication charm. "Sirius, I have him. Moving to extraction point B. Be ready." "Thank Merlin," came the immediate reply. "Is he hurt?" "Cruciatus aftereffects and drugged, but alive and conscious. Have a healer ready." Diana turned to Narcissa. "Open it." The blonde woman placed her palm against the door, which glowed briefly before clicking open. "The wards end at the stone wall marking the edge of the kitchen gardens," she instructed. "Beyond that, you can apparate." Diana nodded. "Your wand will be left outside the property line." She studied Narcissa thoughtfully. "Your son showed kindness. So have you, in your way. Remember that when the time comes to choose sides." "There is no choice," Narcissa replied bitterly. "Not for our family." "There's always a choice," Diana countered. "Sometimes the brave one, sometimes the right one." She stepped through the door into the cool night air, Harry secure in her arms, and began moving swiftly toward the boundary Narcissa had indicated. Freedom was just 200 yards away. They'd covered half the distance when alarm bells suddenly rang throughout the manor, magical lights flaring to life across the grounds. "They've discovered you're missing," Diana told Harry, breaking into a run. "Hold tight to me." Harry wrapped his arms around her neck, his face pressed against her shoulder as she sprinted across the manicured lawn. Behind them, shouts and the crack of apparition announced that the Death Eaters had mobilized. "Stop her." Bellatrix's shrill voice carried across the grounds. "Crucio." Diana dodged the red beam of the curse, her Amazon reflexes allowing her to evade while still protecting Harry. The stone wall marking the apparition boundary was just 50 yards ahead. Multiple spells flew toward them now, forcing Diana to deploy her shield, deflecting curses that exploded against the ground and foliage around them. Harry clung to her tightly, surprisingly alert despite the sedative. "Almost there," Diana assured him, leaping over a hedge that burst into flames as a curse hit it. 30 yards. 20. The boundary was in sight when a powerful blasting curse struck the ground directly in front of them, sending dirt and stone fragments flying. Diana curled her body around Harry, absorbing the impact as they were thrown backwards. She rolled to her feet immediately, Harry still protected in her arms, to find themselves surrounded by a semicircle of Death Eaters, Bellatrix Lestrange at their center. "Well, well," the dark-haired witch cackled, her heavily lidded eyes gleaming with madness. "Not Dumbledore after all. What an interesting development." Her gaze fixed on Diana's armor. "And dressed for a costume party, no less. Diana set Harry carefully on his feet behind her, keeping one hand on his shoulder to steady him while the other gripped her shield. "Stand down," she commanded. "You cannot win this fight." Bellatrix laughed, high and unhinged. "Such confidence. Perhaps you haven't noticed, but you're outnumbered 6-1, and the anti-apparition wards prevent your escape." Her wand pointed directly at Diana's heart. "Hand over the boy, and perhaps I'll kill you quickly." Diana felt Harry press against her leg, but his voice was remarkably steady as he spoke. "She's not afraid of you. She's Wonder Woman." "Wonder Woman?" Bellatrix repeated mockingly. "Is that what she told you, Baby Potter? How adorable." She addressed the other Death Eaters. "The boy's guardian has come to play hero. Let's show her what happens to Muggle heroes who interfere in wizarding affairs." Diana assessed her opponents quickly. 6 Death Eaters, all wands trained on her, with Bellatrix clearly the most dangerous. The boundary was still 20 yards behind the Death Eater line. Direct confrontation would endanger Harry. Time for a new approach. "You speak of wizarding affairs," Diana said calmly. "Yet you serve a half-blood master." This caught them off guard. Bellatrix's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You dare, Tom Riddle," Diana continued. "Born to a Muggle father and a near-squib mother. That's who you torture children for." She slowly unhooked her lasso from her belt. "Would you like to know what else Voldemort has hidden from you?" The golden rope began to glow in her hand, its light illuminating the shocked and angry faces around them. Bellatrix raised her wand higher. "Enough." Avada, Diana moved with superhuman speed, the lasso whipping out to encircle Bellatrix's wrist before she could complete the killing curse. The witch froze, her expression contorting as the lasso's magic took hold. "What is this?" she gasped, trying unsuccessfully to pull free. "What are you doing to me?" "The lasso of truth compels honesty," Diana explained, keeping Harry safely behind her as the other Death Eaters hesitated, uncertain how to respond to their leader's predicament. "Let's start with a simple question. Why does Voldemort want Harry Potter?" "Against her will," Bellatrix answered, "the prophecy. And because the Dark Lord's return requires Potter's blood." "His return requires Harry's blood?" Diana pressed, tightening the lasso slightly. "The ritual to restore his physical form," Bellatrix continued, struggling against the words even as they poured from her mouth. "Blood of the enemy, forcibly taken. Potter's blood carries special properties because of how he survived the killing curse." The other Death Eaters shifted nervously as their leader revealed closely guarded secrets. "And where is Voldemort now? In what form does he exist?" Bellatrix fought harder, but the lasso glowed brighter. "A homunculus. A temporary body created through dark magic. He's weak, but growing stronger. Hidden at Riddle Manor until the ritual can be performed." "That's enough, Bellatrix," one of the male Death Eaters shouted, finally recovering from his shock. He raised his wand. "Confringo." Diana deflected the blasting curse with her shield, sending it careening into the night sky where it exploded harmlessly. In the same motion, she yanked hard on the lasso, pulling Bellatrix off balance and into the path of another Death Eater's spell. Chaos erupted. Diana released Bellatrix, who collapsed in a heap, and scooped Harry up with one arm while drawing her sword with the other. Spells flew in all directions as she charged forward, shield leading, directly into the Death Eater line. They scattered before her onslaught, clearly unprepared for physical combat against an opponent who moved faster than their spells could track. Diana broke through their formation, racing toward the boundary with Harry held tightly against her chest. "Stop her," someone shouted, but it was too late. Diana crossed the stone wall at full speed, immediately activating the emergency portkey Flammel had provided. The hook-like sensation caught them both as the world dissolved around them. When it reformed, they stood in a secure room at the French Ministry of Magic, where Sirius and a team of healers waited. "Harry!" Sirius rushed forward as Diana set the boy gently on his feet. "Thank Merlin. Harry swayed unsteadily, the excitement having temporarily burned through the sedative potion, but now fatigue and the curse aftereffects were catching up to him. "Sirius," he mumbled. "They wanted Dumbledore. For a ritual." "Don't worry about that now," Sirius soothed, helping him onto an examination table where the healers immediately began casting diagnostic charms. "You're safe." Diana relayed what she'd learned from Bellatrix. "Voldemort exists in some form of temporary body. He needs Harry's blood for a ritual to fully return." "This changes everything," Sirius said grimly. "If he's already achieved partial corporeal form, he's much further along than Dumbledore implied." One of the healers approached them. "The boy has been subjected to the Cruciatus curse," she reported, her French accent thickening with anger. "Briefly, but enough to cause nerve trauma. We've administered a restorative potion, but he'll need rest and further treatment. The sedative they gave him was improperly dosed, we're neutralizing it now." Diana moved to Harry's side, taking his small hand in hers. His eyes fluttered open at her touch. "Did I help?" he asked groggily. "Did I do okay?" "You were incredibly brave," Diana assured him, smoothing his hair back from his forehead. The scar was slightly inflamed, a reaction to proximity to Voldemort's followers, perhaps. "I'm so proud of you." Harry managed a weak smile before his eyes closed again, the healing potions drawing him into a restorative sleep. Amélie Delacour entered the room, her expression fierce. "My Aurors are securing the area. We've registered a formal complaint with the British Ministry regarding the kidnapping of a child under French magical protection." She looked at Harry with concern. "How is he?" "He'll recover," Diana replied. "But we've learned something disturbing. Voldemort is preparing for his return, and he needs Harry to complete it." Amélie's face hardened. "Then we must ensure he never gets the opportunity. I've stationed permanent aura protection at your apartment and alerted international magical law enforcement. The boy will have the full protection of France." "That may not be enough," Sirius interjected. "If Voldemort is already in a physical form, even a temporary one, he'll be gathering followers and resources. Britain's ministry is compromised, Malfoy and others have significant influence there." Diana considered their options. "We need a more secure location. Somewhere beyond the reach of British wizarding authority." "Themyscira?" Sirius suggested. "Your homeland?" Diana shook her head reluctantly. "Men are not permitted on the island, even children. The Amazons would make an exception in an emergency, but not for long-term residents." She thought for a moment. "But there are other options. Places protected by ancient magic different from wizard wards." "I may have a solution," Amélie offered. "My family maintains a property in the Pyrenees, concealed by Vila magic and unplottable to wizarding detection. It has served as a sanctuary during times of magical conflict for centuries." "That could work as a temporary measure," Diana agreed. "But we also need to address the root problem." Sirius nodded grimly. "The remaining Horcruxes. And now this ritual Voldemort is planning." "I've sent word to Dumbledore," Amélie informed them. He should, as if summoned by his name, Albus Dumbledore appeared in the doorway, accompanied by a French ministry official. The old wizard looked grave, his injured hand more pronounced than before. "I came as quickly as I could," he said, eyes immediately finding Harry's sleeping form. Relief softened his features momentarily. "He's alive, thank Merlin." "No thanks to your absence," Sirius said coldly. "Where were you when Death Eaters attacked Flamel's home and took Harry?" Dumbledore accepted the rebuke with a slight bow of his head. "Pursuing the diary Horcrux. I believed Harry was safe with Nicholas." His blue eyes met Diana's. "I underestimated Voldemort's resources and determination. A mistake I won't repeat." "We have new information," Diana stated, putting aside recriminations for the moment. "Bellatrix Lestrange revealed under the influence of my lasso that Voldemort exists in a temporary physical form. He's planning a ritual to fully restore himself using Harry's blood. Dumbledore's expression darkened. This is grave news indeed. The ritual would likely involve the rebirth potion, an ancient dark magic requiring bone of the father, flesh of the servant, and blood of the enemy. He stroked his beard thoughtfully. Though perhaps there's an unexpected advantage here. Advantage? Sirius growled. They tortured my godson. How is that an advantage? If Voldemort uses Harry's blood to resurrect himself, he would inadvertently take in the protection Lily Potter created through her sacrifice, Dumbledore explained. It could create a tethering effect that would actually prevent him from killing Harry. Diana stared at him incredulously. Are you suggesting we allow this ritual to happen? Certainly not, Dumbledore replied quickly. Merely noting that even Voldemort's plans may contain unintended consequences beneficial to our side. But our priority must be to prevent the ritual entirely by eliminating the remaining Horcruxes before Voldemort can secure Harry. What progress have you made with the Horcruxes? Diana asked. The ring and locket have been destroyed, Dumbledore confirmed. I've located the cup in Bellatrix Lestrange's Gringotts vault but have been unable to access it. The diary is in Lucius Malfoy's possession, and I've confirmed through the Hogwarts Ghost of Ravenclaw Tower that the diadem of Rowena Ravenclaw is hidden within Hogwarts itself. So 3 remain, Sirius summarized. And all in locations difficult to access. Not necessarily, Diana mused. Bellatrix is now wanted by French authorities for kidnapping and torturing a child under magical protection. That gives us leverage with Gringotts. And after tonight's events, Malfoy Manor may be searched by international magical law enforcement, Amelie added. If the diary is there, we could recover it. Dumbledore nodded slowly. A coordinated approach might work. But we must move quickly, before Voldemort realizes how much we know. They formulated a plan. Harry would be moved to the Delacour Sanctuary in the Pyrenees once the healers cleared him for travel. Amelie would use her diplomatic authority to secure cooperation from Gringotts regarding Bellatrix's vault. Diana and Sirius would accompany an international magical law enforcement team to search Malfoy Manor, while Dumbledore returned to Hogwarts to locate the diadem. Once all Horcruxes are destroyed, Voldemort will be mortal again, Dumbledore concluded. Though still dangerous. And what about his current form? Sirius pressed. This homunculus Bellatrix mentioned. Without Horcruxes, it can be destroyed through conventional means, Dumbledore explained. Though finding it will be challenging. Riddle Manor is likely heavily protected. Diana looked at Harry, still sleeping peacefully under the influence of healing potions. When the time comes to confront Voldemort directly, I will go. Diana, Sirius began. I've faced gods and monsters, Sirius, she reminded him quietly. This dark wizard, no matter how powerful in your world, is within my capability to defeat. She met Dumbledore's gaze directly. The prophecy speaks of Harry facing him, but it doesn't specify when or how. I won't allow a child to be sent to battle an adult's war. Dumbledore studied her thoughtfully. The prophecy has always been open to interpretation. Perhaps the power he knows not is not within Harry himself, but in those who protect him out of love rather than duty or strategy. He nodded slowly. Very well. We will focus on the Horcruxes, and when the time comes, we will discuss the final confrontation. As the others continued planning, Diana remained by Harry's bedside, her hand gently holding his. Whatever came next, she would ensure that Harry's path forward was one he chose freely, not one forced upon him by prophecy or manipulation. The Delacour Sanctuary exceeded Diana's expectations. Nestled in a verdant valley between towering peaks, the ancient chateau was surrounded by gardens that seamlessly blended into the wild landscape. Magic hummed in the very stones of the building, a different kind of power from wizard magic, more primal, connected to the earth and elements. Vila Magic, Apollon Delacour explained as she showed them around. The elegant blonde woman was Amelie's sister-in-law and a half Vila herself. Our ancestors chose this location for its natural magical confluence, a meeting point of earth, air, water, and fire energies. The protections here have evolved over centuries, drawing from nature itself. Harry, still weakened but recovering well after 3 days of intensive healing, looked around with wonder. It feels happy, he observed. Like the magic is singing. Apollon smiled approvingly. You have good magical sensitivity, young one. Most wizards never notice the song. She led them to a suite of rooms overlooking the gardens. These will be yours. My daughters are excited to meet you, especially Gabrielle, who is close to your age. The Delacour family proved to be gracious hosts and powerful allies. Apollon's husband, Sebastian, was a senior diplomat in the French magical government, while their daughters, 11-year-old Fleur and 6-year-old Gabrielle, quickly became Harry's first real friends his own age. Sirius divided his time between the sanctuary and assisting with the Horcrux hunt, returning each evening with updates. The international pressure on Britain's ministry had yielded results. A team of neutral observers had searched Malfoy Manor, discovering the diary Horcrux hidden beneath the drawing room floor. Dumbledore destroyed it immediately with the basilisk venom-infused sword, Sirius reported one evening. That's 4 down, 2 to go. The cup proved more challenging. Despite diplomatic pressure, the goblins initially refused access to Bellatrix's vault without her presence. Only when Ragnarok personally intervened, citing violations of goblin banking ethics through storing soul magic, did they relent. It's been destroyed, Diana told Harry, who insisted on being kept informed about the hunt. Just one more remains, the diadem at Hogwarts. Harry had been doing remarkably well, considering his ordeal. The healers had successfully treated the nerve damage from the Cruciatus curse, and his natural resilience had handled the rest. More surprising was his emotional recovery. He spoke openly about his captivity, processed his feelings with Diana and Sirius, and showed few signs of lasting trauma. You've been through something terrible, Diana had said during one of their talks. It's okay to be frightened or angry. Harry had considered this thoughtfully. I was scared when it happened. Really scared. But then I remembered what you told me about being brave, that it doesn't mean not being afraid, it means doing what's right even when you are afraid. He'd smiled up at her. And I knew you'd come for me. That helped a lot. Sirius had later explained, with a mixture of pride and sadness, that Harry's swift recovery likely stemmed partly from his previous life with the Dursleys. He developed coping mechanisms for trauma years ago, he'd observed grimly. Children are remarkably adaptable, especially when they have to be. Now, 2 weeks after the kidnapping, they gathered in the sanctuary's library to discuss their next steps. Dumbledore had arrived that morning, bringing news that the final Horcrux had been located and destroyed. The diadem was hidden in what Hogwarts calls the Room of Requirement, a space that transforms based on the Seeker's needs, he explained. With assistance from the Grey Lady, Helena Ravenclaw's ghost, I was able to find and destroy it. So Voldemort is mortal now, Diana confirmed. Yes, though still dangerous, particularly in his current form, Dumbledore cautioned. The homunculus grants him limited magical abilities, and he has followers willing to act on his behalf. What about the ritual he was planning? Sirius asked. Without Harry's blood, can he still complete it? He can use any enemy's blood, Dumbledore replied. It won't grant him the special protection he sought from Harry, but it would restore him to a full body. Then we need to find and confront him before that happens, Diana stated. Where is this Riddle Manor? Little Hangleton, in Yorkshire, Dumbledore supplied. I've been monitoring it discreetly. The security is formidable, magical and mundane. Approaching directly would alert him immediately. Harry, who had been listening quietly from his place beside Sirius, suddenly spoke up. I can feel him sometimes. When I sleep. All eyes turned to him, and he continued hesitantly, since the kidnapping, I've had dreams. I see through his eyes, the homunculus thing. He's angry that his plan failed, but he's still planning the ritual. Dumbledore leaned forward intently. What else do you see in these dreams, Harry? A big house on a hill. A snake, he talks to it. And a man who looks like a rat. Harry frowned in concentration. They're waiting for something. Someone important. Pettigrew, Sirius growled. He must have escaped Ministry custody. The connection between Harry and Voldemort persists, even without the Horcrux, Dumbledore mused. Fascinating, and potentially useful. Diana didn't like the calculating look in the old wizard's eyes. Harry is not a tool for spying on Voldemort, she said firmly. These dreams concern me. They're not bad dreams, Harry assured her. Not like nightmares. It's more like watching a movie but through somebody else's eyes. I can pull back when I want to. Still, Diana insisted, we should be trying to block this connection, not exploit it. I agree, Sirius supported her. Harry's mind should be his own. Dumbledore conceded reluctantly. You're right, of course. I'll teach Harry some basic occlumency techniques, mental shielding, to protect against the connection. But if he happens to see something crucial before mastering those techniques, then he'll tell us, and we'll decide together how to proceed, Diana finished firmly. Harry nodded, looking relieved that no one expected him to spy on Voldemort. I want to help, but the dreams feel wrong somehow. Like I'm not supposed to be there. You're not, Dumbledore agreed. It's an unnatural connection, one we should work to close. The discussion turned to planning their approach to Riddle Manor. Direct assault seemed unwise given the unknown defenses and Voldemort's current vulnerability, which might make him even more dangerous in his desperation. We need more intelligence, Sirius concluded. Without risking Harry. I have contacts in the Muggle world who could provide satellite imagery of the property, Diana suggested. And I know someone with expertise in mystical reconnaissance. Dr. Fate, Sirius guessed, having heard Diana mention the sorcerer before. She nodded. His helmet allows him to perceive magical defenses in great detail without triggering them. If he's willing to assist, we could have a comprehensive understanding of what we're facing. Dumbledore looked intrigued. I've heard legends of this Dr. Fate, though I believe them to be just that, legends. You know him personally? We've worked together on several occasions, Diana confirmed. His magic is different from yours, drawing on cosmic forces rather than internal power. It might be exactly what we need to circumvent Voldemort's defenses. They agreed that Diana would contact Dr. Fate while Dumbledore and Sirius gathered what intelligence they could through more conventional magical means. Harry would continue his occlumency training to shield his mind from unwanted connections. As the meeting concluded, Harry approached Diana with a question that caught her off guard. After Voldemort is gone for good, what happens to me? Diana knelt to his level. What do you mean? Do I stay with you and Sirius? Do we keep living in Paris? Do I go to wizard school? His green eyes searched her face anxiously. Or does everything change again? Diana realized that amid all the planning for Voldemort's defeat, they'd spoken little about Harry's long-term future. For a child who had experienced so much instability, such uncertainty must be frightening. You stay with us, she said firmly. Sirius and I are your family now, Harry. That doesn't change, no matter what happens with Voldemort. As for where we live, Sirius added, having overheard as he approached, that's something we can decide together, as a family. Paris, London, somewhere else entirely, what matters is that we're together. Harry's shoulders relaxed visibly. And wizard school? Fleur says she's going to Beauxbatons next year. You'll have choices, Diana assured him. Beauxbatons, Hogwarts once it's safe, or even private tutoring if you prefer. But that's years away yet. Years for proper childhood first, Sirius confirmed, ruffling Harry's hair affectionately. Adventures, birthdays, holidays, all the normal stuff you've missed out on. Harry smiled, a genuine, hopeful expression that transformed his face. I'd like that. Dr. Fate's assistance proved invaluable. The sorcerer agreed to help after Diana explained the situation, his golden helmet gleaming as he hovered above Riddle Manor, invisible to its occupants while his mystical senses mapped its defenses. The Dark Wizard employs serpent sentries, magical constructs that alert him to magical signatures approaching the property, he reported upon returning to the sanctuary. However, his defenses are calibrated to detect wizard magic specifically. My approach, and likely yours, Princess Diana, registered only as background magical noise. He provided a detailed map showing the manor's layout, the location of various traps and wards, and most importantly, confirmation of Voldemort's presence in the upper east bedroom. The entity exists in a liminal state between corporeality and spirit, Dr. Fate observed. His current form requires constant magical maintenance, potions and spells administered by his servant. Without them, he would revert to the spectral state he occupied for years. This information gave Diana an idea. If we could separate Voldemort from his caretaker long enough, his form might destabilize naturally. Indeed, Dr. Fate agreed. Though you would need to penetrate the manor's defenses without alerting him to create such an opportunity. The plan they developed was elegant in its simplicity. Dr. Fate would create a magical distraction on the far side of the property, something that would draw Voldemort's attention without immediately revealing their true purpose. Meanwhile, Diana would enter through a servant's entrance that the helmet had identified as less heavily warded, using her lasso to neutralize the inner guards. Sirius would remain outside the property boundary with a team of French horrors, ready to move in once Diana secured the homunculus. Dumbledore would maintain a containment field around the entire property to prevent any magical escapes. What about me? Harry asked when they explained the plan, careful to exclude any role for him. You'll stay here with the Delacours, safe behind their protections, Diana told him firmly. Harry looked disappointed but not surprised. I want to help somehow. Sirius knelt beside him. You are helping, pup. Knowing you're safe gives us one less thing to worry about during the mission. And besides, he added with a wink, someone needs to keep an eye on Dumbledore's phoenix while we're gone. This was true, Fawkes had taken a remarkable liking to Harry and often perched near him during his occlumency lessons. The magnificent bird would remain at the sanctuary as a final layer of protection and emergency communication. Okay, Harry agreed reluctantly. But promise you'll both come back. We promise, Diana assured him, drawing him into a hug. This ends tomorrow, and then we start our real life together. The assault on Riddle Manor began at dawn the next day. Diana, dressed in her full Wonder Woman armor, stood beside Dr. Fate at the edge of the property, watching the sun rise over the dilapidated mansion. The Order of Order balances order and chaos across all realms, Dr. Fate intoned, his voice resonating strangely through his helmet. This dark wizard disrupts that balance with his unnatural existence. Today, balance will be restored. With that somewhat cryptic encouragement, he raised his hands, golden inks forming around them as he cast his spell. On the western edge of the property, the sky darkened unnaturally, and lightning began to strike in precise patterns, forming mystical symbols on the ground that pulsed with power. Diana waited until she saw movement through the manor windows, shadows rushing toward the disturbance, before making her move. She sprinted across the overgrown grounds, staying low and using the neglected gardens as cover. Her Amazon speed allowed her to reach the servants' entrance before any alarms could register her presence. The door was locked but yielded easily to her strength. Inside, the manor was dark and decaying, with peeling wallpaper and rotting floorboards. Diana moved silently through the servants' corridors, guided by Dr. Fate's map, avoiding the magical tripwires that crisscrossed the main hallways. She encountered her first obstacle on the second floor, a massive snake patrolling the corridor leading to Voldemort's room. The creature was clearly more than an ordinary serpent, its eyes gleaming with unnatural intelligence as it scented the air. Diana's lasso was in her hand instantly. With perfect accuracy, she cast it around the snake's head, immobilizing it before it could sound an alarm. Under the lasso's influence, the creature became docile, confused by the compulsion of truth that contradicted its master's orders. Sleep, Diana commanded softly, and the snake's eyes closed as it coiled into a dormant heap. The master bedroom door was protected by layers of dark magic, wards that would trigger painful deaths for unauthorized entrance. Diana examined them carefully, then simply removed the entire door from its hinges with one smooth motion, bypassing the wards completely. Inside, the room was dimly lit by a sickly green fire burning in the grate. And there, propped in an ornate chair by the window, was the homunculus form of Lord Voldemort. Diana had faced many monstrosities in her long life, but the sight before her was uniquely disturbing. The creature was vaguely childlike in size but grotesquely malformed, scaly, reddish-black skin stretched over a skeletal frame, with slitted nostrils where a nose should be, and burning red eyes that fixed on her with immediate hatred. "What is this?" the creature hissed, its voice surprisingly strong for such a frail-looking form. "Who dares?" "I am Diana of Themyscira," she replied, approaching steadily. "I've come to end your path of destruction, Tom Riddle." The red eyes widened at the use of his birth name. "You are not a witch," he observed. What manner of creature addresses Lord Voldemort so boldly? "I am an Amazon," Diana informed him, continuing her advance. "And you are a fraction of a man clinging to a borrowed existence." The homunculus raised a spindly arm, but before it could attempt any magic, Diana's lasso encircled it completely. The creature shrieked as the golden rope glowed, truth magic reacting violently with the unnatural construction of its form. "What are you doing to me?" it demanded, struggling weakly against the binding. "Your Horcruxes are gone," Diana told him calmly. "All of them. You are mortal now, Tom Riddle, and this form you inhabit is unstable without constant magical support." Fear flashed across the inhuman features. "Impossible. My Horcruxes are too well hidden, the diary, the ring, the locket, the cup, the diadem, and the fragment in Harry Potter's scar," Diana listed. "All found, all destroyed." The homunculus thrashed more violently, its form seeming to ripple and distort under the lasso's influence. "No. Wormtail. Wormtail." But no help came. Outside, the magical distraction had drawn away Voldemort's few followers, and Dr. Fate was ensuring they remained occupied. "Your servant can't help you now," Diana said, tightening the lasso. "And without his potions and spells, your temporary body is failing." It was true, the homunculus was visibly deteriorating, its flesh seeming to sag and dissolve in places as the lasso's truth magic forced reality upon its magically constructed form. "You think this ends me?" Voldemort snarled, even as his voice grew weaker. "Lord Voldemort cannot die. I will return, as I have before." "Not this time," Diana countered. "Your anchors to this world are gone. What happens next is what happens to all mortals when their time comes." The creature that had been Voldemort looked truly afraid now, its red eyes wide as its form continued to dissolve. "Who are you to challenge me? You're nothing. A woman playing at heroics." Diana watched him calmly. "I am not your executioner, Tom Riddle. Your own choices and actions have led to this moment. The lasso merely reveals truth, and the truth is, without your Horcruxes and magical supports, you cannot maintain this existence." With a final, inhuman shriek, the homunculus collapsed in on itself, the borrowed flesh and bone returning to the base elements from which they had been conjured. A dark mist rose briefly from the remains before dissipating into nothingness, the last fragment of Voldemort's soul, finally releasing its hold on the mortal world. Diana retrieved her lasso, which returned to its normal golden glow once freed from contact with the dark magic. She activated her communication charm. "It's done. Voldemort is gone." Outside, the sounds of magical combat had ceased. Dr. Fate appeared in the doorway, his golden helmet impassive as he surveyed the scene. "The order of chaos that sustained him has dissipated," he confirmed. "I sense no lingering spiritual presence. His followers have been subdued or have fled." Diana nodded. "Then our work here is complete." Together they exited the manor, where Sirius and the French Aurors had secured the property perimeter. Among the captured Death Eaters was Peter Pettigrew, cowering and whimpering as he was bound with magic-suppressing shackles. "Is it true?" Sirius demanded as Diana approached. "Is he really gone?" "Yes," she confirmed. "Completely this time." Sirius exhaled shakily, years of tension visibly leaving his body. "So it's over. Harry is safe." "Harry is free," Diana corrected gently. "Not just safe, but free to live his life without prophecy or destiny hanging over him." They left the Aurors to process the captured Death Eaters and secure the site. Dr. Fate opened a portal back to the Delacour sanctuary, allowing them to return instantly rather than using the more jarring wizard transportation methods. They found Harry waiting anxiously in the main hall, Fawkes perched on his shoulder. The moment he saw them, he ran forward, throwing himself into a three-way hug with Diana and Sirius. "You did it?" he asked, looking up at them with hope and trepidation. "We did," Sirius confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. "Voldemort is gone for good, pup. You're free." Harry processed this momentous news with remarkable composure, though his eyes shone brightly. "What happens now?" he asked, echoing his question from days earlier. Diana smiled, lifting him into her arms even though he was getting almost too big for such gestures. "Now, little one, we live. We build our family, you continue your magical education, and we face whatever comes next, together. As a family," Sirius added firmly. Harry's arms tightened around Diana's neck as he whispered, "That sounds perfect." In the months that followed, they established a new normal. After careful consideration, they decided to maintain residences in both Paris and London, the French apartment for its familiarity and security, and a newly purchased townhouse in a magical district of London to maintain Harry's connection to his British heritage. Sirius was officially cleared of all charges by the British Ministry, which was undergoing significant reforms following the revelation of corruption and Death Eater influence. He accepted a position as a special advisor to the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, working specifically on improving the justice system to prevent future miscarriages like his own case. Diana continued her work with the Louvre, now with a special focus on artifacts that bridged the mundane and magical worlds. Her unique position as both Amazon princess and guardian to the boy who lived made her a powerful voice for cooperation between different magical communities, which had historically remained isolated from each other. As for Harry, he thrived. His magical training with Flamel continued, supplemented by visits from various specialists in different magical disciplines. By his 6th birthday, he had achieved remarkable control over his unbound magic, showing particular talent for defensive spells and healing magic. More importantly, he was finally experiencing a normal childhood. He had friends, both magical, like the Delacour sisters, and non-magical, from the neighborhood near their London home. He played, laughed, occasionally got into minor trouble, and was loved unconditionally through it all. Dumbledore remained a complex figure in their lives. Having acknowledged his mistakes with Harry, he sought to make amends by providing resources for Harry's education while respecting the boundaries Diana and Sirius established. They maintained a cautious alliance, with Dumbledore eventually accepting that his role in Harry's life would be that of an occasional mentor, not a guardian or director. On a warm summer evening, nearly a year after Voldemort's final defeat, Diana found Harry sitting on the balcony of their Paris apartment, watching the sunset paint the city golden. She joined him, noticing how much he had grown, no longer the tiny, malnourished child she had found at Privet Drive. "What are you thinking about so seriously?" she asked, ruffling his perpetually messy hair. Harry leaned against her side comfortably. "I was just remembering when you found me. With the lasso. And how everything changed. For the better, I hope," Diana said softly. "Definitely better," Harry agreed with a grin. "But I was thinking, what if you hadn't found me? What if Dumbledore's plan had worked? What would have happened?" Diana considered the question thoughtfully. "I believe you would still have defeated Voldemort eventually," she said. "You have an extraordinary spirit, Harry. But the path would have been much harder, with more suffering and less choice." Harry nodded soberly. The lasso showed the truth, didn't it? About everything. That's what it does, Diana confirmed. It reveals truth, even when people try to hide it, especially from themselves. I'm glad you used it on me, Harry said simply. Even though it showed bad things, it meant I could be free. From inside the apartment came the sound of Sirius's laughter as he spoke with Remus Lupin, who was visiting from Britain. The two old friends had reconnected after Sirius's exoneration, healing wounds from years of misunderstanding and separation. That's the thing about truth, Diana mused, putting her arm around Harry's shoulders. It can be painful, but it's always the first step toward freedom and healing. Harry smiled up at her, his green eyes clear and unburdened. Do you think my parents would be happy with how things turned out? I never knew them, Diana replied honestly, but from everything Sirius has told us, they wanted nothing more than for you to be safe, loved, and free to choose your own path. So yes, I think they would be very happy. They sat together in comfortable silence as the last rays of sunset gilded the Paris skyline. Below them, the city bustled with life, ordinary people going about their evenings, unaware of the magical world that existed alongside them or how close that world had come to darkness. Diana reflected on how much had changed in a single year. She had lived for centuries, fought in wars, faced gods and monsters, but nothing had transformed her life quite like finding a small, neglected boy with a lightning-shaped scar. In saving Harry, she had found something she hadn't realized she was missing, a family, a child to nurture, a new purpose beyond battle. Harry stirred beside her. Diana. Thank you for being Wonder Woman. For saving me. Diana smiled, her heart full. Thank you for showing me that sometimes the greatest adventures aren't about fighting monsters or saving the world. Sometimes they're about building a family and watching a brave young boy grow into his own magic. Inside, Sirius called their names, announcing that dinner was ready. Harry jumped up, energy restored as always at the mention of food. He held out his hand to Diana, who took it with a smile. Together, they went inside to join the rest of their family, leaving behind the shadows of prophecies and dark spells in favor of the simple, profound magic of belonging. In the end, the most powerful spell of all hadn't been found in Dumbledore's machinations or Voldemort's dark rituals. It had been in a golden lasso that revealed truth, a brave boy who embraced it, and the new family that formed in its wake, breaking chains and forging bonds that would last a lifetime. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.